That's okay. Yeah. Start the one that's off standing first. Yeah.
Well, hello everybody, and what a delight it is to be able to welcome you once again to another match between the Central Sparks and the Thunder, this time here at New Road. We have Claire Jenkins, former Somerset and Derbyshire cricketer, alongside myself, Mike Perkins, and we will be speaking to Claire. Probably we're going to be talking about the team news, I think, because obviously 3 decisions at least to make for both sides. The news of the toss is that Thunder have won it. There's a little fact coming your way, I think, on that as well, and they have chosen to bat as they did at Edgbaston. But I suppose the place to start is, well, New Road. Never disappoints, looking absolutely fantastic. The skies have got a little bit cloudy. We've got some grey above us, just blocking the sun out at the moment, but there's been plenty of sunshine around. The cathedral away to our left-hand side in the distance with its 4 pinnacles poking out into the sky off that square turret. The green is always such a feature here of Worcester and Worcestershire, the cricket club itself as well, but it makes its way out across the outfield into the seats and up into the trees around us, and it is an absolutely fantastic scene. We've got the ladies pavilion away to our right and the Graham Hick pavilion, where very shortly the Central Sparks players are about to emerge from. So Claire, we're here. We have the teams in front of us. Let's just give people at home those. So the Central Sparks will be Eve Jones, Gwen Davis, Marie Kelly, Poppy Davis, Millie Home, Chloe Hill, Claire Boycott, Thea Brooks, Emily Arlett, Liz Russell and Anisha Patel. So it's Chloe Hill, Liz Russell and Anisha Patel coming in there. For the Thunder, Laura Marshall and Georgie Boyce will be hoping for better luck opening the innings than they had in the previous game. You've then got Nat Brown, Ellie Threlkeld, Rebecca Duckworth, Olivia Thomas, Laura Jackson, Alex Hartley, Alice Dyson and Hannah Jones. So both sides, they were going to at very least have 3 changes to make because of the fact that the international players go back to train with the squad. What do you make of what the sides have done? I suppose the wicket-keeping situation was maybe the issue for the Central Sparks.
Yes, I mean they obviously lost Amy Jones to the West Indies bubble, so that'll be interesting to see how that gets on. But I mean, Gwen Davis is such a bubbly character. I think she's going to be great to get the energy going in the field, etc. So that'll be good to see. When we arrived here though, Mike, it was really, really sunny, and now it's gone cloudy over, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there. And as you say, the ground always looking lovely, the pear trees in full fruit as I came past from the car park.
What's been nice about this today is that we are in a very different position, and that we are almost within touching distance of the play going on in front of us, and we're looking out there as the players walk out. It's going to be Laura Marshall and Georgie Boyce to open the batting again for the Thunder. And we spoke about the buzz last week and the excitement about the new tournament, but we could really sort of feel it today because we were actually quite close to the players warming up, and as you say, they were doing so in the sunshine, which was nice, and you could just sort of feel it today.
You could almost imagine it was a cricket season finally. Yes, it's a glorious setting here, isn't it? It's always lovely at New Road. I mean, it looks like a lovely surface. The players are just pleased to be playing, and I think we're all glad to be just watching some cricket, some women's cricket finally.
Yes, well, we've had to wait an awfully long time for it, but it kicked off in style last week with a win for both of these sides. So they're both they're both in the table in the 2nd and 3rd positions. We have Yorkshire Diamonds at the top with 9 points, and I think it'll be a very interesting thing. I thought the umpires were waving at us for a moment there, but of course it's the scorers who are sat just to our left. It's nice to know that they want to check we're ready. Liz Russell has the ball in hand and will be bowling to Laura Marshall, and of course we all know what happened from the first ball at Edgbaston on Bank Holiday Monday. But the group's nicely set up because you feel the Lightning haven't quite lost as much with their England players. Russell on her way to bowl to Marshall. It's outside the off stump and played behind point to Claire Boycott, who gets her first contribution for the day. It is Gwen Davis who has the gloves on. That was probably the big issue for the Sparks to decide on, and they have gone for Gwen Davis. But yeah, it just feels like a Lightning win today, and this is a very, very intriguing Northern group.
I think it's, I mean, this is going to, are we going to see the difference between what it's like to have with the England players and
bowling
what it's like
here
without
is Russell, driven down the ground, and no run possible. Brooks comes across to do the fielding.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what it's like without the England players in here. So I think this is a great opportunity for the other players to have a chance to shine, literally.
And Russell towards the back of her mark. No runs so far from either of the first two deliveries. The board 0 for 0. And Russell is on her way. Right arm over the wicket from the new road end of the ground, and this one is driven back to Russell, who takes it in her right hand. No run once again possible from the drive, but she'll be settling in. And there is this narrative around the England players dominating the first weekend of competition, which yes they did, but also it takes away from your Rachael, your Amara Cars, the Bryce sisters for the Lightning, who also made contributions, and of course Marie Kelly notably for the Central Sparks. Their teammate Russell delivers. This one worked into the leg side, and it is Marie Kelly. Always seems to be right on cue. Whenever we bring her into the commentary, she seems to pick up the ball. I remember she got a catch when we did that the other day. But there are these players just below, and Marie Kelly's innings I think typified what players outside that England bubble can offer. Here's Russell turning at the back of her mark. We'll get a few more thoughts from Claire Jenkins in just a moment, but Russell is bustling in, and this one's driven down the ground. That's a lovely shot, and it should run all the way for 4. The chase is on, but it will be in vain. The ball pops up over the rope, and the first 4 runs of this match are confirmed, and they go to Laura Marshall, and that was a very nice stroke indeed.
Yes, first runs. And I think it should be a good combination, because having those first 2 rounds with the England players will have given, I think, those around them some chance to feel what it's like to play again with them alongside.
Here comes Russell once again, past the umpire, delivering right arm over the wicket. It's cut down to third. There's going to be a single here, and Marshall gratefully accepts it, with Boyce coming down to the striker's end just in time for the over to be completed, so she'll get to watch a little bit more of Laura Marshall batting. And we were talking about what a dangerous pair these two could be, and these will be two who are an example of people outside that England bubble. Yeah, and I, just to finish my point really, it's just that they will have had those first 2 games with alongside the England players, and now they've got the chance to actually have a go on their own, so I think it should be a good combination, I think. Well, Liz Russell makes her way down to just the right of us here at the new road end, and it will be Emily Arlett to start the bowling. Really liked the way Arlett bowled actually on was very much a freak occurrence in many ways. Very unusual to see 2 wickets fall before the first run, and despite Marshall been dropped. A tough chance at short cover on 5. She's moved on to 9 and is facing up again. Arlett on her way, ponytail behind her, and that one kept a little on the low side. Marshall just able to drive it off the back foot back to the bowler, and the scoreboard remains where it was. Or where it is, in fact, at 9 for naught.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Laura Marshall was Izzy Wong's first bowler, so she'll be glad to get a bit of bat on ball, I think, this morning.
Yep, she'll be feeling positively satisfied with 9 from the first 2 overs so far, and she's looking to add to that now, but leaves instead, and it goes through to Gwennon Davis, who just pops it up to Anisha Patel, who's got the slip fielding duties. There's a slip backward point, a conventional cover, a short extra cover is Eve Jones, the captain. Thea Brooks is up at mid-off, then we have mid-on, mid-wicket and a long leg at the moment, as well as Liz Russell, who's just in front of us at third, emerging from behind that pole here at New Road, as that one is driven up to mid-on. It's Chloe Hill there with the fielding. Over comes to an end. 9 without loss is the score. Georgie Boyce will get a chance to face her first delivery here, and it's been a steady start for both sides, and we're just really waiting to feel which way this game is going to start to move.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how Georgia Boyce feels about facing Central Sparks' bowling attack again after Monday's game.
Obviously a bowling attack without Izzy Wong, which was a noticeable part of that bowling attack, but Liz Russell is a useful operator, and she has been given the duties of opening the bowling here today. Back of the mark, the big sight screen behind Liz Russell. It's a sort of big black drape really that's been hung at the far end. That's blowing in what breeze there is. You can see the trees at the Diglas end just pointing over towards the cathedral as Russell bowls, and it's driven straight back to her, so there'll be no score from the first delivery of this third over.
Yeah, and Liz Russell is part of that national T20 winning side of Warwickshire from last year, which will give them a great amount of, I think, confidence going into this.
Yeah, great success for Warwickshire, one of the counties that make up the Central Sparks. Staffordshire, Shropshire, Worcestershire, all involved as well, as Russell comes in and bowls. This one creeps down the leg side, and it'll be the first wide ball of the day. Takes the score on to 10, and Georgie Boyce will wait for one in her area. Lots of encouragement again from the Sparks players. Both these sides looking for their second win of the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. And here comes Russell to deliver from the New Road end. Short of a length, this one is cut away, but Boycott is found at backward point, and a relatively comfortable bit of fielding in the end as Boyce continues to await her first run.
Yeah, Boycott, another Worcestershire player, so that's good to see her playing here as well.
She'll be eager to impress. Over there with the short blonde hair. And Russell is about to make her way in once more. Feels very similar to the last over, and she'll try and find a shot from Boyce there, who's happy to watch that one go through. It's almost exactly the same. Patel at slip, Hill's gone from mid-on to third, and you've got backward point, a conventional cover, short extra cover mid-off, as well as mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg on the leg side. So turning again is Liz Russell. 10 without loss the score, and Boyce waits for this delivery. Still not off the mark against the Sparks in either of the games she's been involved in so far, and that one's driven to short extra cover where Eve Jones ensures it will be a dot ball.
Yeah, I don't think Georgie Boyce will be looking necessarily forward to Emily Arlott bowling.
No, it will be a difficult task. It was a sort of uppish cut stroke really that was her demise. It was more sort of batter error than particularly being outfoxed by the delivery, it felt, on Bank Holiday Mondays. This one's short outside the off stump, and that one is also signalled a wide. So 11 without loss the score. The Cathedral, as we've said, looking splendid in the distance. No flag on top of the flagpole today, but it's perhaps due to, I guess, there's not as many staff in there as there might usually be.
No, it's probably COVID guidance about who can handle a flagpole, etc. as well.
Well, it's still looking absolutely marvellous as that cathedral as Russell comes in and bowls. This one is short. A little bit of a touch I felt onto the stumps there, and it's actually almost deflected away and out the circle. Well, it did go out the circle, and Georgie Boyce was considering whether her first run might be on offer. It's completely foxed poor Thea Brooks, who was wrong-footed, wasn't she, going away to her left. The ball came off to her right off the stumps, which is a little on the unfortunate side, but there we go. Here comes Russell, looking for the first wicket of this, the third game for these two sides in the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. Central Sparks versus the Thunder. There won't be a run on offer for Boyce there, and other than the two wides, that was a very tidy over from Russell. No runs off the bat. Boyce has now faced those 6 legal deliveries without scoring, and 11 without loss is the score.
I'm still intrigued by Liz Russell playing England Rounders, which is just a very she's the first person I've known who's played that. So
well, you'd imagine she'll be quite strong, kind of hitting over mid wickets and wide mid on. You would think, given the action with the bat in that game. But
given she's on the boundary, she must have a decent throw, I assume. So
yes, you'd think so. Just down at third in front of us. The fielder that often hides when you're talking about cricket here at New Road, as Marshall drives, didn't go entirely where she would have hoped originally, and the tail back in from Arlott sort of took it into the leg side as well, and Chloe Hill was able to do the fielding. Dot ball for the first delivery. The sun is now out, and it's shining down on that lush green outfield here at New Road, as in comes Arlott again, bowling right arm over the wicket, forced into the offside, and it'll be picked up at cover by Millie Home. He's involved in the ring today. Wasn't actually involved much in the sort of inner ring on the game on Bank Holiday Monday. She was off in the deep.
And Emily Arlott is another one of the England Academy players, and she's actually a Worcester age group coach in her other day job, as it were.
So she'll be providing plenty of inspiration for those she coaches here, playing in this Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy game, as this one's driven to Eve Jones at short cover, who makes the stop and again ensures there have been no runs so far from this over.
Yes, the website lists Emily Arlott's heroes as Elise Perry and Mitch Stark, so that's two pretty good heroes for a bowler.
In comes Russell, Diglis end, and bowls now. This one on the short side. Certainly Marshall back into her crease, but didn't find a run. Good little spell of dot balls bar the 2 extras here. This has been a very, very tight little spell from the 2. Trees just waving in the distance. Again, they have their colour. They're not reverting to Central Sparks colours just yet. Thunder in the very dark blue, as this one's driven away by Marshall. Threatened to just creep up into the air again there, but she kept control of it as she threw her hands at the ball, but couldn't find a way past Eve Jones to score a run. Lots and lots of chatter from the Central Sparks players here. Now I know they just have to do the same job they did in the earlier game between these two sides, and look to restrict their opponents and then knock the runs off, as in comes Arlott, bowls to Marshall, who drives back hard. Arlott picks up and threatens to throw, although I don't think there was ever any intention to actually let go of the cricket ball there. And that will be a maiden over, so 4 overs gone and 11 without loss the score.
It just felt like watching Monday's game that Thunder were just so thrown by that first baller from Izzy Wong, and clearly Sparks lots of confidence from that dismissal, and then it just sort of wobbled them really so much that lost the first couple of wickets so quickly. We talk about momentum, don't we? And that was certainly momentum.
Yeah, there was when a game starts like that, the momentum's always going to be one way for such a long period of time. As Russell comes in and bowls, this one is prodded into the leg side, slightly forward was Boyce, but still no chance of getting her first run of the game. And it was credit to the Thunder, actually, that they provided such a tense finish, really, with the way they bowled and the way they defended that target. I heard Marie Kelly talking about it being an awkward total for the batting side to chase.
Yeah, and Laura said to you as well that they'd like to have had a few more on the total, but yeah, it came out all right in the end, didn't it? So that's good.
Voice of Claire Jenkins there, former Somerset and Derbyshire cricketer, as Russell bowls. This one is played away into the offside. It's still a packed offside where Millie Home does the fielding, and the score remains on 11 without loss. As Russell will make her way back to her mark. Just seen the blinds drawn to our right, which is rather obscured one of the scoreboard, but thankfully we've got another one over towards the hotel, which is more or less out of our view because of that big black sheet, which is allowing Boyce to get a good look at this white ball, which has been delivered quite wide on that occasion. And 12 without loss, the total moves on to with the extra. Neither side really taking a decisive moment in this game so far, but
a little bit tentative, isn't it, all round?
Sort of feeling each other out as Russell comes into bowl and delivers a ball that came back in towards the stumps and had to be dug out in the end at Yorker length.
Yes, proper dug out.
As threatening as Russell has looked, I think, so far. No run from it. Russell turns again to look towards the Basil d'Oliveira stand. It's ramped seats, which it'd be lovely to have you in, but the live stream is where you can enjoy this commentary from for now, as Marie Kelly comes in from mid-wicket, picks up, no run scored. You're with Mike Perkins and Claire Jenkins.
Yeah, we do wish that you were here. Unfortunately, it is sort of odd behind closed doors, but the ladies' pavilion, for those of you who know the Worcester County ground, has cut out figures of various folk, so it does look like there's people sat in that stand, if you catch a glimpse of that.
Which is always nice, as in comes Russell and bowls another full delivery. I don't think this one was quite on the stumps, although it was turned away in sort of a rather peculiar angle, and that does allow Boyce to get through to the non-striker's end and score her first run. 13 without loss the board ticks onto.
We should also thank Liz Russell because she works at Solihull Hospital. She's a pharmacy technician, so we heard from now they're going to be wearing NHS stickers on their helmets later.
Yep, and Liz Russell is one of those heroes who's been doing her bit, and she's bowling now, trying to be a hero for the Sparks, but that one was short of a length and forced away comfortably by Marshall, although she didn't add to the total, which is 13 without loss at the end of the 5th over of the day. Yeah, I think you're spot on there, Claire Jenkins. The board to our left is definitely the one to start familiarising ourselves with. It's a fairly new addition here at New Road, that one.
It's nice and clear. I've got a great view of it, but unfortunately Mike has to keep craning his neck to actually get a view of it.
Well, I've stupidly sat in the position that Dave Bradley, who's the man who has commentated for many a year here at Worcester, has done, and I've realised now that he's doing it just to be kind to everyone else, because you do have to lean round all the poles and that kind of thing. But he'd have pointed out when you mentioned the ladies' pavilion that they once ran out of tea cakes, and apparently it was Kevin Peterson's fault. That's always his story. As in comes Arlett to bowl, and it's on and in towards those stumps of Boyce, but she just forces it down the onside, and Chloe Hill goes and picks up. I think it was.
So KP had eaten all of what?
No, I don't know. I don't know the exact ins and outs of it. That's the only bit of the story I ever get. But I think it was it was during one of his sort of indiscretions where he was struggling with the gravity of being Kevin Peterson in the England team. I think as Arlett comes in and bowls here. This is a full toss, but Boyce clips away into the leg side and should be relieved it's beaten the fielder, actually, because for a moment it looked as if it wouldn't, and Chloe Hill's put in a really good chase to try and cut it off, going round to wide mid-on from mid-on, but it pops up over the rope. 4 more added to the total. That board over to our left ticks on to 17. So Boyce has moved on to 5. But yeah, no, I think it was one of those moments where he was struggling a bit in the England changing room, and I think wasn't particularly popular on Twitter. The consensus seemed to be was also the problem for the cakes.
I was sort of slightly distracted by gravity and cakes, which I was thinking is a good combination of words.
In comes Arlott to bowl. That raised, short of a length, and Boyce's back has got quite cramped in the end. Again, maybe a sign of that tail back that Arlott likes to get. Dot ball added to her tally.
You got the sense that she really banged that one in as best she could as well.
Well, she got one to really pop at Edgbaston on a wicket that was perhaps not those ones at the edge of the square. They seem to just be not quite as good as the ones in the middle, I find, and Arlott really found some life out of it. We'll get a few more thoughts on that in a minute as Arlott comes in again, bowls back of the length. Boyce forcing to Eve Jones. It's all along the floor, no run.
Yeah, I saw that on watching the live stream. I thought it was great to hear Sarah Ginn on the mic there as well. Just one or two just had a sort of odd, and then you think, did she do that or did the pitch do that? It wasn't clear even just watching it on the live stream.
Well, it was quite an anomaly on a sort of sticky, slow pitch, and then all of a sudden, and it was, I think I remember saying it was Rachael, and it was actually Nat Brown. She turned around and pointed to her arm where it had hit her as this one is down the leg side, clipped away down to long leg for a single by Boyce. I think she wanted to just get a little bit less on that and send it finer, but she would have got 4 had she done so, but instead it's Poppy Davis who is wearing 29. That's quite nice that we've been able to confirm that, because that was the one number that we hadn't seen so far in this Central Sparks squad, because Chloe Hill, Anisha Patel and Liz Russell, the other 3 players who've come in today, have all featured in some way, shape or form, albeit Hill as a extra fielder, and she comes across as a regular fielder there at mid-on and keeps the scoring to 1 from that latest on drive. 19 without loss is the score at the end of that latest over from Arlott, and 6 overs gone means the hand sanitizer will come out, and the Thunder will be quite satisfied, I think, with that start, given the sort of chaos that must have gone through their dressing room with losing 2 wickets in 2 overs in the previous game between these sides.
Yes, it must have been considerably calmer, I imagine, as you say, in the dressing room, with pads being put on rapidly, etc. Just returned to Poppy Davis a minute. I mean, she's one of the staff's players, so it's great to see that she's getting a game here this morning.
Tamworth first 11 player, I think I remember reading. So she has a good experience in club cricket as well in Staffordshire.
I gather she's Loughborough University as well, so
yeah, certainly some good credentials there. As Russell, back of the mark, will look to make her way in again to start this, the 7th over of the game, and it's a full toss driven back to Russell, who just gets her hand to the ball and ensures that no scoring can be done, although there was never really a possibility, and that sun's out and the picture's absolutely perfect here at New Road. It's almost what people imagine a cricket ground should look like, with a tree just over the boundary on the right hand side, the cathedral away in the distance, the River Severn bubbling away between here and there as Russell comes in and bowls, and there's a big appeal here, but the umpire shakes the head and it will be not out. It's tailing back in towards the pads. Marshall clearly thought it was heading down leg side, judging by the shot, but there are hands on heads from the Central Sparks fielder, or at least from Marie Kelly at mid-wicket.
We've got no idea anyway, because we're not actually at the same angle as you're watching this on the live stream. We're at sort of 45, so
yeah, we're just off through the slips. If the bowling was from the Diglis end, it's from the New Road end at the moment, and short of a length, and hit up towards Poppy Davis at mid-off, who comfortably prevents the run being taken. Marshall on 10 now from 23, settling into her work in this game. You can see that the stream clearly is going out, which is good. You can see a photo from Lisa O'Keefe there, who says Saturday's now built around the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. As in comes Liz Russell to deliver, and this one's driven nicely. It's well, an improvised stop by Eve Jones. She wore a few in that first game against the Northern Diamonds when Anisha Patel was bowling, and she rather just managed to just her body in, as I say, an unconventional fashion, but she got plenty behind it and prevented what may have been 4 if she'd missed it being scored. But yeah, Lisa O'Keefe saying this week she's watching Central Sparks take on Northwest Thunder on the live stream. Big thanks to us for making it possible. So thank you to you too for listening, Lisa, as this one's cracked from outside off down to mid-on, where Thea Brooks is the one who has to get everything behind the ball and does so, and just gives it a quick rub on the trousers.
We've got a big sound off the bat there, but it just didn't seem to quite get the bat through that.
Yeah, it just seemed to drag it in the end. As in comes Russell once more, delivers a full toss that's hit hard and firmly up to Poppy Davis, and mid-off and mid-on have worked very hard in that over and prevent a run being scored again to finish it 19 without loss the score. So some encouraging shots from a Marshall point of view there, in that they went bang straight up to mid-off and mid-on, but also very encouraging for Liz Russell because she's backed herself a maiden.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate, I think, for Thunder that they've not found a big gap when they've hit some of these.
7 overs of the game gone so far. And the field just moves slightly. The slip is being moved out, so Anisha Patel going to square leg. We also have a mid-wicket, mid-on and long leg on the leg side. A third backward point, cover, extra cover and mid-off are the fielders on the offside, and Arlott is turning. The black sheet at the Diglas end is draped over some seats and it's blowing around as a bit of air gets underneath it, but most importantly on the pitch, Boyce is equal to the latest Arlott delivery, although it's another dot recorded, and they're building up already, these dot balls, and the Sparks will be happy in that respect.
Yeah, happy with that. Yeah, keeping the dots down even if they're not getting wickets.
I'm not sure if we can display them on the screen today, but I will get the Sparks Will Fly hashtag up on the screen I have next to me so that we can bring you any comments that come in through hashtag Sparks Will Fly on Twitter, as Arlott comes in and bowls. This one played away by Boyce into the offside. No run, Eve Jones is there. Reminding you with Mike Perkins and former Somerset and Derbyshire cricketer Claire Jenkins, who I get the impression from the look on your face there, you're enjoying this one so far.
Well, we're a bit close to play, so you kind of feel a bit more like you're in it, although I'm feeling a little bit like a decent drive, and this window might be in a bit of trouble.
Well, rather worryingly, we can see the front windscreen of my car from where we're watching play today, so if you hear a cry of anguish, you'll know exactly what's happened, as Arlott bowls and Boyce declines driving over the top of extra cover towards my particular vehicle, and is picked up by Eve Jones, who is doing the work at short extra cover, and I guess she'll be struggling to just put that early chance to Laura Marshall out her mind. It was a real finger cruncher, as we said, and it looked almost as if it wasn't going to carry, but she certainly felt she'd got something underneath it. We'll get Claire Jenkins' thoughts on that, because Arlott's already at the back of her run and efficiently moving in as she likes to do. Elbows jutting out slightly is the only thing that wasn't going in a straight line. Actually, the ball wasn't particularly on that occasion. It's a wide down the leg side. 20 without loss the score goes on to, but that will be in Jones's mind.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean it was a really right off her toes, so I'm sure she's more of a professional. She'll be on to the next ball.
She's got the elbow defenders on, which is always useful when you're fielding on those used wickets. You get quite scratched up if you're not careful. Arlott bowling. This one played down to third by Boyce, who knew there was a vacant area there, and she was almost looking into it before the ball hit the bat, and though it was an outside half, it was a well controlled outside half, and it brings a run for Boyce, who's now on to 7 off 20, 21 the Thunder score.
Yeah, those bits of the square are particularly hard. I mean, having fielded at point most of my career, it is a really hard bit of ground to fall on.
It's boycotting at backward point at the moment, just walking into the ring here, as another really nice drive from Marshall brings a no run just down the onside of the wicket this time. Just really fluent flow of the bat on that one, but just didn't bring her anything at all, which she'll be disappointed about.
I just want to if people want to look at the player profiles for Central Sparks, they've got some great pages on each of the players.
As Arlott strides in, bowls short of a length. Marshall just works this one away a bit more awkwardly this time from the crease, really, and again can't find a run. She's been stuck on 10 for a little while. 21 without loss at the end of the 8th over.
Yeah, Thunder, apparently, I mean, I don't know if I got this right, but I think when I was doing my research, they've won the toss and elected to bat in all 3 games, so they've been doing well getting the luck from the coin.
Yeah, that was a little fact you were promised, and if you've been there from the start, we do like the people who've been there from the start, but we do like everybody who joins the live stream, and the more of you we can get, the merrier, really. That basically will allow us to do more of these. I think the more of you we can get in, and if you hit that little thumbs up at the bottom of the feed as well on YouTube, that's always helpful to know people are enjoying this. But just by being here, really, it's very nice indeed to have you along, and the more of you we can get to join us, the better. As this one is worked into the leg side, Marie Kelly is there with the fielding at mid-wicket, and she's able to prevent a run being scored on that occasion. Of course, games going on elsewhere, so we'll bring you some scores from those in just a moment, but our focus today is in the Northern Group. 2 sides have won a game each in the form of the Central Sparks and the Northwest Thunder, who are batting at the moment with Georgie Boyce at the crease, and she's driving nicely, and Davis has work to do away to our left hand side. The batters take that as the invitation to run through for the single, and they do so fairly comfortably in the end, and the score moves on to 22. Lots of encouragement here, but the longer this goes without a wicket, the more that belief and the encouragement might start to fade away into the mixed sky above us as Russell bowls and just gets fingertips on this one. No run on this occasion. We certainly see the sunlight poking out from behind the clouds, but some big white and grey ones above as well, so it's a mixed patchwork up there. More encouragement for Russell though, who's at the back of her mark, turning again and making her way into the crease. Delivers just short of a length, and this one is driven from the crease by Marshall, who's still stuck there on 10. 30 deliveries for it now. She's working hard for the runs, but she's hit some lovely shots in that 10 as well without reward. Here is Russell. Makes her way in. The bat's raised, and this one's driven slightly uppishly, and Marshall's just trying to force it that time. She's got such a fluid drive when she wants to, but that one she just tried to muscle, and same result, no run. 22 without loss.
Yeah, interesting. I was reading on ESPN Cricket Info that Sophie Eccleston, who obviously is off in the bubble at the moment, said that they see themselves underdogs, the Thunder. So,
well, they've got a win on the board, so they'll be glad about that, as this one is driven away into the offside. Eve Jones there with the fielding, has to stop it, but easily prevents the run. Didn't gather cleanly, but it was fiercely struck, and Marshall's frustration continues. She's still there on 10. 9 overs gone, so we're approaching the end of the power play. The score is 22. Yeah, I suppose they consider themselves underdogs because in the Kia Super League, certainly last year, they had a really rough time of it. I remember seeing them against the Southern Vipers at Egbert quite early on in that, and that may have been the game they got as close as any. They were sort of in the chase for a bit, but never really after it. Beaumont and Wyatt went a bit wild, and certainly in that previous competition they were very much built around their bowling attack, so they kind of need the likes of Marshall and Boyce to start coming through and proving their worth. Here's Arlott. No slip in place for her now. And she's added the protection to the leg side. She comes in and bowls short of length. This one's cracked away with the offside, and that's as good a shot as you will see at New Road. Onto the back foot went Georgie Boyce, and she just crashed it away through cover. Horizontal bat, and 4 runs was always going to be the result. 26 without loss for Thunder. best shot of the day so far.
Yeah, she really got over the top of that, didn't she? And it's a bit of a confidence boost, hopefully, for her.
Crashed away towards that ladies' pavilion with the cardboard cutouts in as Arlott bowls, and this one's worked away down the leg side to long leg. Poppy Davis we should say, even though they're fairly easy to distinguish between the Davises we've got on the pitch because Gwennon has the gloves on today. It's one thing we have learned from this competition is there's a lot of Davises in the in the middle of the country.
Yes, three.
Yes, Georgia Davis, one of those missing out today, and perhaps the surprise amongst those missing out. She bowled very well, I thought, on a bank holiday Monday. Lovely flighted off spin, but that won't be available to the captain of the Central Sparks, Eve Jones. As Arlott bowls, this one's driven down the ground. The umpire taking evasive action at the far end. Arlott trying to get anything she can in the way of it, and I don't know if she got a shin on it in the end, because that's where she was gripping, or I don't know if she sort of hurt that area of her body as she went down.
Twisted it, or...
She looks in a bit of pain here. She's gripping
Eve
the
Jones
ankle,
is
back to her feet, thankfully.
Waving at the physio, but I think they're kind of waving her back off again.
Yeah, the palm of the hand went out and say, stop right there, which is good news, I suppose. 27 without loss then, the score. Obviously no run from that delivery that Arlott rather bravely threw herself in the line of, although I suppose when it's your bowling figures, you tend to feel quite brave, don't you?
Trying to be all like, no, it's fine, I'm fine.
So I'll wait the play just to settle back.
She's just winded herself a bit.
Yeah, she's sort of on her haunches a bit, isn't she, Emily Arlott? As she's on her way now. Boyce waiting back raised. Marshall waiting back raised and drives it down the onside of the wicket, and Marshall remains on 10.
I mentioned the Central Sparks player profiles and things, and it lists Emily Arlott's interest as biking up the Malverns, which sounds like a really hard task.
Well, they were in splendid form on the way past this morning, the Malverns. They were looking good. Very nice part of the world to go walking or bank riding, as Emily Arlott likes to. This was short of the length and just over the top of Boyce's bat. She was looking for, Marshall's bat, looking for that cut stroke that Boyce found in the previous over, but couldn't connect. 27 without loss it stays.
Yeah, and Gwen Davis was very interested there. The ball kind of went past the bat at speed.
Tumbled away to Davis to make sure she got her gloves underneath it. Indication there isn't a huge amount of carry in this pitch, but it looks a reasonably decent one, as this one's a full toss and makes no use of the pitch, and it's rather on the spin in the footholes fooled Anisha Patel, and that's allowed Marshall to get off 10, and she might be quite disappointed about that, because it was a nice little subplot in this game, the way Marshall was stuck despite playing some nice strokes, and she's got away off that number now thanks to a fielding error, so the Sparks might be disappointed there. It's 28 without loss at the end of the 10th over, which is always a significant moment in the game to just make a little scribble of in the book.
Yep, end of the power play.
And Sparks will be relatively happy with that. It's not a difficult amount to try and match in the second half, but no wickets are supposed to be the concern.
Yeah, but then if the scoring rate isn't that high, then maybe that's a confidence boost.
Russell, fairly lengthy conversation with Eve Jones. Leader away to our left hand side, that mixture of the slate roof and the dark brown brickwork with the 4 pinnacles on top of the big square tower, as this one is bowled just outside the off stump, and there was an attempt at a cut stroke from Marshall, who, as she did in the previous over, missed it, and there was no run. The keeper's up to the stumps as well here, which is interesting. A little bit of communication going on with the scorebox. We can almost hear what they're saying.
Jeremy Lloyd's just checking something, I think.
Clearly happy. The walkie-talkie goes back into the pocket, and Marshall is driving again powerfully down the ground, but again Poppy Davis mid-off is there to prevent any scoring, and she's almost using it as a driving range at the moment, is Marshall. Those two fielders. She's just blasting everything down there with varying success, but no runs unfortunately it's bringing so far, but it may do if she continues to pepper it. This one, she's looking to get through wider in the offside. There was a misfield, although it was a stop that prevented 4, frankly, in the cover point region by Heyhoe. The fact she couldn't keep it in the hands, though, allowed the single to be taken. Marshall on to 13. She has taken the score to 29. So still mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg on the leg side as Marshall bowls outside off stump, and Heyhoe again has to be alert at cover point and fools her captain at short extra cover this time. Eve Jones, there's a laugh between the pair, and Poppy Davis had to be alert at mid-off to come and do the fielding this time. But
it's a nice stroke, but it kind of felt sort of half committed in terms of, you know, I haven't found a gap again.
Yes, yes. No, peppering that side of the wicket, boycott at backward point, home at cover point, and there's a short extra cover as well, as this one is delivered by Russell neatly in towards that.
Very respectfully. I think they're going to be looking forward to the some sort of change of bowling, aren't they? I think they don't seem to be able to get these pair away at all, really.
A dot ball, very accurate start this one. No risk taken by the Thunder players so far, it feels. And you'd be tempted to keep Arlott going for one more now, if that is the feeling that they're getting out there, as we are in the commentary box, that they're looking to see these off. Heyhoe back to the cover boundary. That'll leave Boyce with a chance of 1 here if she wants it. She's bowled onto leg stump though, and she gets a 1 nonetheless, because long leg is back. Boyce takes the single. 30 without loss, the score moves on to. And we have had 11 overs, 6 of them bowled by Liz Russell, and tidy they've been too.
Yeah, I'm still slightly distracted by those cardboard figures on the ladies' pavilion, because I'm now wondering, because if you've ever visited New Road, the sort of legend has it that there's cakes available in this pavilion, and I'm wondering whether there's going to be cardboard cakes if there's cardboard spectators.
That's true. Yeah, they might all appear with a cardboard cake after tea. That'd be great. If anyone can arrange that, that'd be fantastic.
The real cakes would be even better.
Well, they would, yeah. I think there's no food on the media pack, unfortunately.
Yeah, COVID guidance, have to bring our own food.
Is a sign of the time, so we'll be having a picnic later. I'm trying to check the scores, and I'm in my emails, which wasn't entirely what I'd tried, because we haven't given you the scores elsewhere so far, because we've been just waiting to see whether this game would go one way or another. But in comes Arlott to start her latest over, and Boyce is prodding really from the crease, slightly in front of it eventually. Down the ground the ball went, and no run was possible there. The grey clouds slightly dominating the lighter blue skies at just this particular moment, but I'm sure a breath of wind or two will do something about that. As in comes Arlott to bowl. It creeps down the leg side, wide ball, takes the score on to 31 without loss. Lightning in the other game in the Northern Group are batting. They are 51 for 1, approaching the end of the 10th over against Northern Diamonds, who are the side with 2 wins in this group. Both these sides here, Central Sparks and Thunder, have 1 each. Southern Vipers, they are 42 without loss after 12 overs, so a relatively similar start, slightly ahead of the Southern Vipers against the South East Stars, as in comes Arlott again and bowls, and Boyce is driving down to the deepish mid-off Chloe Hill, and I think they've decided they need to start just running those, and Boyce was quickly through, and 32 the score goes on to. And the Western Storm are 53 for 1 against the Sunrisers after 11 overs of that game. Parfitt is the batter out, LBW for 18 to Gardner in that game. So lots of cricket going on in the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy, and we're enjoying this game at the picturesque New Road as Marshall works into the leg side from just forward of the crease, and Kelly is there with a throw at the stumps, but it misses and no run is taken. 32 without loss.
Yeah, it sort of feels a bit becalmed. We need a bit of something to just give this a bit more momentum, a bit more zhuzh.
Yes, in terms of levels of excitement, it's been a rather different start. It's been more of a Saturday morning start, this one, as this one is bowled a full toss onto the legs, and Marshall will be very disappointed, I think, not to have got more bat on that away to the backward square leg boundary. It's sort of just dribbled off, really, down to long leg for one. 33 without loss, the score.
Yeah, I think Central Sparks will be quite happy for Thunder not to score.
Well, they know if they get a couple of wickets at this point, they're right on top of this game, so they'll be quite happy to hold the boards where it is. With that in mind, they've got third back and cover back now as Arlett bowls. Boyce drives, Hill fields at mid-on, no run is taken. Because
the other thing about Thunder not really kind of finding the gaps is that the Central Sparks fielders have been able to come closer and closer and closer, so it's really pinned them in.
Claire Boycott warming up at backward point. Bowled really nicely, I thought, on Bank Holiday Monday, did Claire Boycott.
Yes.
Very useful operator. She's one of those cricketers you can very easily become very fond of, because she's just such a useful player, and she won't be called into action here because the ball's gone away into the leg side of Arlett's bowling. Kelly does the fielding, brings the over to a close. 12 of them gone, 33 without loss, the Thunder score. So, as I say, you've had a couple of wickets to that. It looks very dicey indeed, but if they keep going, this pair, it could be a very, very useful start. It's that sort of game at the moment, Claire Jenkins.
Yeah, I think it's on that sort of, is it good that they haven't lost a wicket, that that's sort of bringing their confidence? But I just, from my point of view, I'd really like them to put the fielders under pressure. Take some singles, be quicker off the mark, make the Sparks have to think about how they're going to kind of control the game. But at the moment, it's just be calmed.
It's fine the way this game is at the moment, but you want to see just a little more intent, don't you, from both sides? Just kind of looking to assert that dominance.
Yeah, I want the batsmen to be really kind of, pushing and running for that quick single, put some pressure on to make it feel like there's a real urgency. It needs a bit more urgency, I suppose, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you say, just fielders a little bit more on their toes, just looking to get that feeling of pressure around the batters, and equally from the batters when they're playing these nice strokes, just looking for that single a bit more, perhaps. Russell is going to have a seventh here, of course. That was the dreaded over for Izzy Wong. She rather ruined her beautiful figure, didn't she, at Edgbaston? But Marshall, I think, sort of is a more economical action, and perhaps will be more inclined to a 7. And you could see why Izzy Wong took that extra over, because she was bowling so well on Bank Holiday Monday. It was as good a spell as quick bowling as I've seen at Edgbaston. As this one is short of a length from Russell. It's chopped away into the offside. The fielder is back on the cover boundary, so it's returned by Millie Home out there. 1 run is the only damage. 34 without loss the score. 14 and 15 for the batters, and it's Boyce who has the lead in that respect, is on strike.
Yeah, you've got to hope that sort of slight delay with the hygiene break, let's hope that's given them a bit of impetus.
Here comes Russell, wide outside the off stump, and it's signalled as such by the umpire. 35 without loss, as the trees at the far end, at the Diglas end, just below in the direction of the River Severn, across to our left hand side. It's so strange seeing New Road without spectators. It's the first time I've commentated here during this COVID crisis, as it gets called, as this one's short and is kept very, very low, and I don't think Boyce was entirely happy with the bounce that she got there, but she got some bat on it, fortunately. It wasn't straight, luckily. I suppose that would be the other thing she would have been thankful for. Score remains on 35 without loss, but it's one of these county grounds that, because it's one of the smaller ones, a bit like Derby is as well, that it feels nice and full, even with sort of a fairly modest amount of spectators in, and it's very strange to not see it looking that way as Russell comes in and bowls. This one is defended forward. In defence was Boyce, and just played it down to the pitch, no run. Yeah,
and as a spectator, I think it's one of those pitches where you just feel like you're very close to the action, and that sounds sort of slightly potty, but
well, when the bowling's from the Diglas end, we're almost in the slip corner, sitting here in the commentary box. That's the impression you get as in comes Russell and bowls, and this one's played away again to the fielder on the cover boundary. 1 taken, 36 the score moves on to. Boyce now has 16, Marshall 14.
That's a big boundary out there, so it's a pity that for Thunder that wasn't the same shot the other way around. She might have got a 4 out of that.
Claire Jenkins, former Somerset and Derbyshire cricketer, with myself, Mike Perkins, bringing you this commentary via the Central Sparks, and I think we're on the Thunder websites as well. I'm sure Alex can give us a nod in a moment as Russell bowls this one, and it's played down the offside of the wicket to Poppy Davis. I think it's fair to assume we're on the Thunder website as well, because we were on Bank Holiday Monday. So good to have you all with us. As I say, the more of you we can get, the more of this we can do, if we're honest. So as I say, watch as much as you can, and do let us know how it's getting on. Hashtag Sparks will fly on Twitter, at Mike Polly P, at 1-to-1 Interv Coach, as Russell comes in and bowls, and this one's clattered down the ground. That's going to be 4 runs. There's no stopping that one. 40 without loss. The Thunder move on to. Marshall has finally got one through the gap between mid-off and mid-on.
It feels like a relief to see that. Just to kind of put a bit of impetus in.
Yeah, she just gave that one everything. If that one wasn't going, nothing was going to go all day, and she got it in the gap, and she got it there with quite some power, and I think Russell may well take a bit of a break at the end of that over.
Your point also was, you mentioned about the Twitter feeds, etc., and if people at home are wondering what they can do to kind of support women's cricket at the moment, I think that's a really important point. It's something that Kate Cross and Alex Hartley made in their No Balls podcast the other day, was get involved, get into the Twitter, get in the debate, retweet, like things, because that's what creates the kind of energy around women's sport and in this case women's cricket, but get involved with the debate about that.
And rather selfishly, I'm going to say give that little thumbs up below the video if you can see it abash as well, because that helps us out to let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing here.
Yeah, and each of the teams are wanting to to be able to promote the fact that they've got lots and lots of people watching on the various live feeds and things. So yes, watch, like, retweet.
You can even get up a couple of screens and have one of the ones that maybe doesn't have the commentary on as well, just to keep an eye on what's going on between Lightning and Diamonds in the Northern Group. 40 without loss. Boycott's going to be into the attack, and as I've said already, I enjoy watching Claire Boycott. I think she's a really useful cricketer, and she has the opportunity to come and stick a bit of that shape on the ball that Laura McLeod, the former England player, was telling us about on Bank Holiday Monday. First ball brings Boyce forward defensively. Good job she was forward actually there, because it didn't bounce too much. Boycott, of course, relatively short in stature. I'm sure Laura will drop in at some point during the afternoon. Of course, director of West Midlands cricket as well, so heavily involved with the Central Sparks, and has provided some great insight so far, as this one is played down to third by Boyce. I think Boycott felt it was an outside edge. Boyce will feel it was a very nice single to be taken with the keeper up to the stumps. 41 without loss it goes on to. We've got Raf Nicholson as well, tapping away in the press box away to our right, so I'm sure she might come in and give us a few thoughts at some point as well, as Boycott comes in and bowls short of a length, driven by Marshall up to mid-off, and no run possible.
Yeah, it'd be great to get Raf's insight into this, because I think they're over what's happening in the other games, etc. as well. And great to hear from Laura, and ironically that she was a Thunder player at KSL.
Yes, I did pose the question as Boycott bowls and Marshall plays it down the onside. Was it a bit of a strange experience, the game on Bank Holiday Monday, and obviously this one? I can't exactly remember what the answer was. I think it might have been tactfully skirted around, who knows.
I don't know that she got on the pitch that much, but you can ask her that later.
Yeah, such an association with that part of the world as Laura McLeod, as this one is played up to mid-on. It was a tight single, but always there, and Marshall gets through, and there's applause for the throw, but there also seemed to be a bit of applause from the Thunder players as well there. Marshall on to 19, 42 without loss. Yeah, no, Laura McLeod's career with Cheshire and Lancashire as well as with England.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in comes Claire Boycott to bowl again. Forward is Boyce, playing it away into the offside. Good fielding by Eve Jones, tumbling away to her left-hand side. She had plenty of cover behind her, but she knew it too, even though it is a short boundary, would always be a the possibility if she didn't get there, and she made sure the captain, and as much as anything, Claire Jenkins, that was about just showing what she wants from her players, I think.
I think so, yeah. It's just that demonstrating the role model thing, isn't it? It was interesting to have the change of bowling from boycott, because it seems to have given us a bit more energy, I think. I'm hoping so.
Yeah, she's just an energetic cricketer.
You feel like something's going to happen, don't you, I think?
She sort of bustles in, and as I say, I sort of wasn't surprised to hear that she puts a lot of action on the ball that you perhaps don't always notice unless you're out there facing it, because she just has that sort of look about it. Now, Russell is going to have another over. It's a curious tactic, this, I think, because I just felt the last over she was fading off a bit, and they could have maybe called it a day at 6, but maybe not having Georgia Davis seems quite a reliable person to come on, so maybe they just want to try and keep the pressure on with Russell as long as they can.
Yeah, I mean, I know some bowlers like to bowl straight through, some like a break, don't they? So maybe she's one of those bowlers who wants to feel like she's had a proper spell. But you mentioned
a really awkward number to come back on.
yeah, that's right. Well, yes, that's true.
Here is Russell. New Road End. Siren whirs away in the distance. This one is bowled outside the off stump. It's defended. Good fielding there by... it's not Chloe Hill, it's Emily Arlett who comes across.
You mentioned Izzy Wang, I think, and I think Laura said it on comms as well. You'd have had a job to, I think, take the ball off her, having got those early wickets.
Had to prize it out.
Yeah, I think so.
She was at the back of the mark and gripping it quite tightly. As in comes Liz Russell. Relatively loose grip on the ball. Lets it go, and it's driven down the onside of the wicket. Thea Brooks is there and easily keeps the score at 43.
Yes, Izzy Wong, I'm still kind of boggled by, because she played with Vipers at the finals last year. They had the TV screens on, and she's a Rubik's Cube in some record amount of time.
Here comes Russell. Right arm over the wicket. Forward is Boyce in defence. Not entirely happy with the bounce of this pitch. The scores in the championship here have been relatively high, actually, even on days where it's been, or in games where it's been raining quite a bit as well, so you would expect this to be a good surface for both sides batters, but you never know. And as I say, as soon as you start edging towards the edge of the squares, you never know quite what's going to happen. Both these sides will be enjoying the first class facilities, I'm sure, as that one goes into the gloves of Gwen and Davis, who's been given the responsibility behind the stumps. She ensures another dot ball's recorded there. What do you make of that decision, Claire Jenkins? Bringing in Gwen and Davis, because obviously the three options are Chloe Hill and Poppy Davis as well.
They're well off for wicket keepers, aren't they? But I mean, Gwen and Davis just strikes me as one of those people who wants to be in the game all the time. I know everyone does, but she's a real fizzy character.
I actually think that those three batters who are still here and have had it, we'll just come back to that as Russell is bowling, and this one's played down to long leg. Boycott's there, one taken. Boyce gratefully accepts it. She's on to 19, same score as Marshall. 44 the total for the Thunder. They'll be happy to have wickets in hand at the moment.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying about the pitches as well. I mean, this is a great opportunity for the women to play on some nice pitches. Edgbaston and Worcester for the Sparks.
Here comes Russell again. Waiting is Marshall. Slightly short of the length. Worked to Anisha Patel at backward square leg. No run taken. 44 without loss is the score at the end of the 15th over.
But we've also had games. We've got the game today at Grace Road, the Leicestershire ground, Trent Bridge they've used, Bristol County ground. It's just great that the women are getting to play on these pitches.
Yep,
and they're getting the profile.
And they've put themselves out there, haven't they, on that big stage, and they've done it very well indeed so far. Scores from the other games then. Lightning now are... they need to refresh that, I think, because they were 58 for 1 last time we saw. Whereas they're 75 for 2 now are the Lightning in the other game in the Northern Group. In fact, 83 for 2 with 36 overs of their innings remaining. So we have the first ball of this over. Boycott is cut away to the cover boundary, but home is there to ensure it's only 1 added to the total, and the score goes on to 45. So we have Sarah Bryce, the wicket-keeper of the two sisters is not out there with as Boycott bowls, and this one again is cut away for a single. And Abby Freeborn also at the wicket in that game. They've really chucked the overs around in that one. Langston, Graham, Armitage, Gunn and Levick have all had a bowl.
Wow, it's a bit different to here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is indeed. Where Boycott is into the action now and bowling the third ball of this over. And it's the first dot ball as Boyce defends it back down the track. Both the batters have taken a single each out to the cover boundary. Just the one chance really so far to the captain Eve Jones at short cover when Marshall was on 5, and Boyce has hit it through cover again. Bit more of a chase on the boundary for home, but she does the work well and throws it right over the top in fact in the end.
But the slightly taller wicket keeper for that
yes,
throw.
the ground fielding was very good from Millie Home. And she clearly is rated as a boundary fielder because she spent a lot of time out there. She was just about the only fielder on the boundary at Edgbaston the other day, and she's gone from deep cover to deep cover in this game. This one's worked away behind square on the leg side. Poppy Davis now has that touched the rope. She signals that it does. Very honest indeed from Poppy Davis. Although I think from our angle we had a very good angle that it had touched the rope, so we might have been dobbing her in.
You could tell from the body language. Oh no, it's gone and touched the rope.
Yeah, we might have been dobbing her in if she'd not admitted to that. Takes the score past 50. 52 without loss for the Thunder. So these two, who were both out without scoring in the previous game, have now put on 50 and will be very happy indeed about that. 24 now the score as the power play there was a whirl of the hand as Boycott comes in and bowls. It's off the outside edge and down to Russell. So it's a free hit. Yes,
I think it's a free hit, but there was
there must have been a ball there as well. Anyway, we're on to 53 without loss, and that's the important thing. One was taken from that hit there, and Boycott has the ball at the Diglis end. We'll be trying to find a way through Boyce, who waits now and defends solidly and makes sure there is no way through to her stumps. And the ball is returned. Over comes to an end. 53 without loss. The end of the over. So the Southern Group fixtures: Southern Vipers 70 without loss against the South East Stars, and Western Storm are the same score, 70, but they're 3 down in that game after, well, they're in the 17th over of that one, and there is a wicket from the Cloud down there. The wicket has been taken in that game, so a famous name of women's cricket getting involved in the wickets in that one, which is always good to see. LBW Morris, Fee Morris out for 24, and there's going to be a change of bowling here. Russell's 8 overs will be a lot for now, and Anisha Patel coming on.
Just getting the hands dry.
Played the first game, not the second, so she'll be eager to impress here. Just after the disc to mark her run.
Another one of the Warwickshire players who was national T20 champions.
Yep.
And a level 2 coach as well, which a lot of the girls are actually coaching qualified.
Certainly a useful side, that one, as Russell swinging her legs around at mid-wicket, just trying to ensure they stay loose. Spear Brooks will be an option with the ball here as well. It's going to be Patel to start with. She's got backward square leg out on the boundary and cover to begin with. Mid-off and mid-on are up. Got a short extra cover and a mid-wicket. Boycott's just behind square on the offside, with a fielder behind. So on the leg side, on the offside, there's a fielder behind square and another one at third. That one turns through into the gloves of Davis. No run to start the Patel spell.
You get the feeling the batsman was like, "Oh, wow, okay, I'm going to look at that for a bit."
In comes Patel once more. Bowls and is appealing for LBW, and the finger goes up, and the first wicket of the day has been taken. And Marshall will look back at her stumps. She seemed as good as in front of them from our angle, which is a slight angle. 53 for 1, the Thunder find themselves. Patel, the change of bowling has worked. She gets the wicket. Marshall out. LBW for 25.
That happens a lot, doesn't it? You get a change of bowling. It's just a sort of change of thought, I think, and just the opportunity to get a wicket was brilliant. I gather that Anisha Patel and I were both at the MCG for the Women's World Cup final, but that since there was 86,000 of us, I wouldn't have even known that he was there with me.
Yeah,
for
such
the
an
Women's World Cup
occasion.
final.
Of course, I mean,
it's just fantastic.
Amazing to think, though, a week ago we were talking about the fact that this was basically the only top-level women's cricket there had been since that major occasion. And we're a week into this competition, and all of a sudden that seems to be almost all you can think about, because there has been plenty of entertainment on offer.
Yeah, and having the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy is just brilliant, isn't it? You know, to have live streams, to be seeing women's cricket finally again on those, it's brilliant. And there was a real feeling that was was a moment in women's cricket history. To be there was fantastic. And there's just that, we're on the crest of a wave, and then just punctured by the coronavirus, which just felt very. I know it's an awful thing, and people have suffered awfully, but it just felt like women's cricket was just at that moment where it's just going to really leap off into some, the stratosphere, as it were.
Score is 53 for 1, and Laura Jackson is the new batsman. Patel bowls short of a length, it's driven back to her, and Jackson will remain on naught. And and yourself was there, as I say. We've got Raf next door who was there providing coverage. It was just one of those moments in women's cricket as Patel bowls. There's an appeal for LBW. I heard bat, I think, even from here, and Patel won't get lucky with a shout for the second time in the over, although the first one looked very much out. 53 for 1 it remains. The analysis of the Marshall innings: 66 minutes, 53 balls, 4 fours were struck, and she was trying to strike a lot more of that straight down the ground, but wasn't able to do so. Dot ball there as it turns past the off stump.
Yeah, I was at a packed Lords when Heather Knight's team took the World Cup, and I thought, this is a moment, and it was brilliant.
As in comes Patel and bowls, and this one is defended into the leg side. Over is called. 53 for 1, and Patel has made the breakthrough in the 17th of. And
I loved that final at Lords. It was a moment in time, but the MCG was just on a completely different scale in terms of the profile. Even within Australia, I arrived at the airport, and the first thing you see as you leave the car park was an enormous poster with Elise Perry's picture on the side of it, and you couldn't get away from the fact that the Women's World Cup was being hosted in Australia. There was nobody in any doubt in terms of the profile that Cricket Australia and the ICC had managed to put in place.
Here is Boycott coming in to bowl, Diglis end, and forward is Boyce in defence, who all of a sudden is the senior partner at the crease. And it's always difficult to know, because we've heard from Laura McLeod during the course of this tournament about how when you're in that kind of that administrative position, if you like, where you're planning out tournaments like this, as Boycott comes in once again and bowls in towards the legs, and it's clipped away down to fine leg and long leg. Poppy Davis will come across, doesn't gather cleanly. That allows a second run that Boyce accepts. 55 for 1. When you're in that sort of administrative role, it's all about those small steps and just making sure that progress is constantly being made, no matter what's going on around. But of course, as fans, as journalists, as ex-players, we like to see the big, massive moments as Boycott comes in and bowls, and this one is defended out into the offside, and those big moments like the final at the MCG, and we're sort of always pushing for those, and it's a very difficult balancing act, because you understand why people in those positions planning the tournaments are talking about the small steps, but equally we want to see those massive leaps. As Boycott comes in again, it's short of a length, played away behind square, and the single is taken again by Boyce. 3 from the over so far, 56 for 1.
It is all about visibility, though. It's that you can't be what you can't see, and those opportunities like World Cups and things. I know there was some concern, roll the clock back a bit about whether the product was good enough, but now we've got a really good product.
Yeah, and it's even been shown out there in the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. The England players have gone back to do their thing. We're still watching an incredibly good and incredibly high level of cricket, as in comes Claire Boycott to bowl again. Short of a length, Jackson can't find a gap and can't find a first run, and that will be building the pressure on her out there at number 3 in this Thunder lineup. Into the side, one of the 3 changes that the Thunder have made for this game on account of Kate Cross, Emma Lamb and Sophie Eccleston returning to the bubble, as this one is defended down the onside of the wicket. Hill is in to do the fielding. No run, end of the over, 56 for 1.
It was amazing to fly into Australia. As I said, the first billboard I saw was Elise Perry's picture, or certainly her outline and all the promotional stuff, and every single lamppost all the way into the town centre in Perth had lanyards on it with the big posters with, host to Women's World Cup. There was a huge sort of fan zone in the middle of the town. There was absolutely no doubting that anybody who lived there or travelled through there that it was hosting the games at the Wacker.
And that was one of those big gambles that hugely paid off. I mean, it was just, it had that impact even without England in the final back here in England. There were people listening, and you could feel just what was going on over there. You could feel it coming through over the airwaves.
Yeah, I mean, that first game where India beat Australia in the opener, I mean, you just felt like the whole thing came alight.
And I suppose that's a shame that India and South Africa haven't made it over to England this summer, because of the reasons around travel restrictions. And I think in the South Africa case, it was a particularly hard blow for women's cricket fans to take, because those were the 2 teams that were sort of the breakout stars of that tournament, if you like. There was an attempted sweep there. I don't think much contact was made, so we're going to see a wide ball signalled. 2 will go on to the total because Davis couldn't gather.
Yeah, and South Africa nearly did that in that semi. I mean, they nearly, took Australia out in that semi.
As in comes Patel and bowls, it's driven back down the pitch and makes a stop. And I mean, I remember talking to Danny van Niekerk in the 2017 World Cup, and the job she's done with that team is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Just application and togetherness that they have, as this one's cut in front of square. It's a rather strange throw in the end from looked quite high in the air before releasing that one. But
it's your point about togetherness. They really have. Looking at South Africa, they seem to have really worked on that.
58 for 1, Anisha Patel bowling. This one's driven, but Patel is able to field off her own bowling, and the score will remain as it was.
And on paper, with the players that they've got a good blend of new and experienced.
Patel bowls, and this one is defended, and there's no run again.
And to get to both semi-finals as well, and for them both to be really close games, they're going to get there.
Here comes Patel, 58 for 1. New batter, still looking for the first run here.
But you feel for Danny and her team, because there's obviously all sorts going on at Cricket South Africa at the moment, which is well covered in the press.
Jackson faces up once more. Maybe wouldn't have wanted to have been back if she could have made that decision again, but she was, and she chopped down on it, bounces up into the offside. 12 balls faced by Jackson now without a run. 58 for 1 the score at the end of the 19th over, so we have 31 more to come in this innings.
Yeah, you hope that the South African women get the support that they need, because they've got the players. They're almost there, aren't they? They've come back very strong in the last few years as a side, and cricket needs a strong women's cricket needs a strong South Africa.
And such a story actually over the border from South Africa in Zimbabwe, as Boycott comes in and bowls, and there's an attempted cut by Boyce, and even Davis behind the stumps couldn't gather that cleanly. And dot ball is the result, because of course they weren't able to even try and qualify for that tournament, because the men's team, there've been discretions there with corruption and that kind of thing, and it cost the women's team their chance to qualify for that tournament, as Boyce turns it away behind square on the leg side. Good bit of fielding there by Russell, who's not looking too sore despite a spell. Still 58 for 1.
Because the qualifying tournament was in Dundee in September, which is everything you expect from Dundee in September.
I can't imagine it was as warm as New Road is today. The sun's out and it's looking splendid as Boycott plays it away into the offside as Eve Jones gets across and picks up. 1 taken, 59 for 1. Now I imagine Dundee can be very nice in the middle of summer, but I think September
I wasn't there, but I gather it was
cold side.
Yes, wet and cold.
But no, I remember Dean Duplessis telling me about the Zimbabwean team just basically not having the chance to qualify, and though I suppose it did give Kylan their chance. 1 taken down to 3rd here, 60 for 1 the score moves on to, and Boyce is back on strike.
And you have to say, Thailand, that was really the story of that World Cup, and actually it came over in that documentary film, which is excellent. If you get a chance to see that, the ICC put together. Yeah,
that's one I've not had a chance to look at yet, so I'll enjoy that at some point as Boycott is producing a drive here, and I think that was again an example of just that little bit of action that you don't notice on the ball unless you're really looking at it closely as a batter, and it sucked Boyce into the shot, but she couldn't make a connection. And Davis, I think, was quite enjoying it behind the stumps, knocked the bails off. I think
bringing the umpire in.
Lloyd, our umpire, might be hoping she doesn't do too often. In comes Boycott again, bowls back of a length, but Boyce still has to come forward, and Jones is there with a fielding at short extra cover, and another tidy over passes. 60 for 1, 2 from it. We've had 20 overs of the Thunder innings, so 30 from each of the first sets of 10 really. Okay, they were what was it, 28 without loss at the end of the 10th over. They're now on to 60, so they sort of need a big couple of 10s here just to get them up to where they'd like to be, but they've got those wickets in hand.
Yeah, you need Jackson to be really kind of just getting her eye in here as well, I think, just to support Georgie Boyce.
Well, it'll only come through partnerships, that's for sure, isn't it? But, yeah.
Oh, you mentioned about the bails with the umpires. Because of COVID guidance, it's only supposed to be the umpires that put the bails back on again, so that's why you'll see the umpires come in and put that in.
In comes Patel and bowls, and she of course got the breakthrough in the previous over. This one driven down the onside of the pitch. Reminder the voices you're hearing, and we're very glad to have you with us, are Mike Perkins and former Somerset and Derbyshire cricketer Claire Jenkins, as Patel makes her way in once again, and down the leg side went Davis, and I think she felt there was an inkling of a leg side stumping, the most prized possession of a wicket-keeper, but just couldn't quite gather and get to the bails. Here's Patel as a rather busy little fly makes its way along our window, and no run is taken out on the pitch.
Yeah, I think if you get a chance to see that ICC documentary, please watch it.
Here comes Patel once more. Floats this one up a little more. It draws the drive from Jackson, who has got that precious single, but that is all there is to her name so far.
He's a little bit sugar-coated, but it certainly shows that the timing were the kind of story of the tournament, if you like, in some ways.
No run from the previous delivery, and no run from this delivery, as Jackson is forward in defence, just looking to build that partnership that Thunder require. Boyce going along nicely on 25 at the other end.
Yes, there were sort of subplots of what else was going on with the games.
Here comes Patel, bowls again, and very awkwardly across her crease there was Jackson, but defends into the onside, and Patel's really just hit her rhythm straight from the off here today. It struggled a bit in the first game when Northern Diamonds were batting very nicely indeed, but she came on in a difficult situation, whereas here the boards sort of felt in her favour because the runs weren't that high.
Yeah, but to get that wicket in that first over is always a good way to start, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly helps the confidence, that's for sure, and Patel makes her way down to third and will be happy with her contribution so far. Diglis end, Boycott to bowl, and this one is played away off the back foot by Boyce. There'll be a single on offer and takes it straight away. 26 Boyce's score. The board moves on to 61 for 1. Plenty of maidens on offer so far, although this won't be one for Boycott, who's already been scored off, but won't be for a second time here, as Jackson just allows it to slide off the face a little bit there.
I imagine Central Sparks and Rachael will be quite happy with this sort of slightly becalmed Thunder innings.
Here comes Boycott once again. Bowls and bowls! Jackson, who is out. A tortuous innings really. 1 run from 20 deliveries, and Boycott has found the breakthrough. And we were talking about, we heard she just puts little subtle bits of action on the balls, always mixing it around, and she's worked out Laura Jackson here, who departs rather slowly off the pitch, and that, I think, is an indication of the disappointment she feels in getting out. 61 for 2, the Thunder score.
Yeah, that was great from Boycott. She's got that wicket now, which is brilliant. And we've got Emery Threlkeld coming to the crease now.
Yep, Ellie Threlkeld, 21 on her back. 50 already in this competition. She strides out confidently to the middle.
Yeah, you'd like to think that she's also bringing the confidence that she's had from being with the KSL Thunder as well, through the KSL tournament.
Yeah, she's a very useful wicketkeeper, although didn't have the best game, it has to be said, in the previous match. Of course, she had that opportunity to stump Marie Kelly, which was just about the only opportunity Kelly gave away. There was another one that popped up that I think would have been almost impossible for her to take, because it did take a bit of bat, I think, but I think it also took helmet or something like that on the way through as well. It was a sort of double deflection past her, but she'll be anxious to just prove herself here, Threlkeld. Nat Brown as well, who batted well in the previous game, is still to come, as this one is driven to mid-wicket. Millie Home there with the fielding, back in the ring. So yeah, 15 minutes Jackson's innings, faced 21 balls in fact. I think I only gave her 20, and only made 1 run before being bowled by Claire Boycott, who's bowling again now, and there with the keeping is Gwennon Davis to prevent Threlkeld getting off the mark.
Yeah, Threlkeld, I mean, you mentioned the glove work, but actually she was using the highlights last Saturday with her 52 runs against Lightning, so they'll need her to do a bit of both.
Settles over the bat, looks up and sees Boycott approaching from the Diglis end. Green trees behind her as she defends back to Boycott in the autumnal kit, and that completes the over. So not a maiden, but a wicket, crucially for Claire Boycott, who has figures of 18 for 1 from her 5 overs so far, so a very useful contribution there indeed. And somebody just needs to bat with Georgie Boyce, who was quite an expansive player in the Kia Super League when she did get her opportunities with the bat, but she's been very disciplined so far in this game, and is on 26 and seems the most likely to progress the Thunder innings to a challenging score here.
Georgie Boyce was Loughborough Lightning, of course, in KSL days.
She waits now as this one draws Boyce forward, played into the offside. Eve Jones there with fielding. Of course, was a Thunder player in the KSL days, but now captaining the Sparks, and back in more or less her part of the country. This one's defended. Shropshire originally, also played in Staffordshire before the move to Lancashire. Dot ball there. Here comes Patel once more. Elaborate action, and delivers another leg spinner that draws Boyce forward in defence.
Yeah, Patel's player profile on Central Sparks describes it as a pharmacovigilance.
You might have to explain that one to me in a minute. Another dot ball, perhaps? No, a single here as it's worked through mid-wicket. Couldn't quite stop it.
I've taken a run up to even pronounce it.
And the word.
Pharmacovigilance. I've come across lots of kind of words put together, but those are not.
So that's a derivative of pharmacology, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and vigilance presumably for checking it.
Well, that's one that's going to need to go in the search engine, I think. In fact, I can't even spell it. I don't know why I'm trying.
You jump to type it.
In comes Patel here, and this one is down the ground. It does hit the stumps. There was a little bit of Patel involved as well on the way, which meant it could have been a run out, but wisely Boyce was stood with at least 1 foot in the crease at the non-striker's end there.
Something for the umpire to do.
Just checks with Patel again, who makes her way in and delivers. This one's hit firmly to Thea Brooks. I guess that's the question now. Do they look to bring Brooks in at some point now they've had the couple of wickets and they feel on top in the game, or do they just keep going with these two who've got the wickets? 62 for 2 the score at the end of the 23rd over. Certainly Eve Jones in discussion with Gwen Davis. Obviously lost a little bit of her brains trust. Amy Jones was heavily involved in the earlier games in the discussions, although I suppose the wicketkeeper always is, as Gwen Davis was there. Here comes Boycott again. Short outside the off-stump, appeal for caught behind, and the finger is raised. And Boyce is out now for 27, and the Sparks are starting to take the ascendancy in this game. It was a neat catch by Gwen Davis, who has been given the gloves for this game. It came off the bowling of Claire Boycott, and we've been speaking about what a useful cricketer she is. Well, that's 2 wickets in 2 overs now for Claire Boycott.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and for both these newer bowlers, if you like, the ones that change of bowlers work both ends, and lots of hand sanitizer going on, taking the opportunity so they don't have to stop at the 6 over mark.
Applause for Boyce, but she'll be disappointed, I would imagine, with 27. She'll probably be feeling she should have gone on with that innings.
Yeah, sort of never quite kicked on, did she?
She was looking for that cut. She of course hit a very nice boundary using it, but for the second game in a row she has been caught by Gwen Davis, once at backward point, once by the wicketkeeper. Nat Brown will make her way to the crease. I'd better say Natalie, just in case her mother's listening. So I don't know whether she is one who goes by a Nat. I suppose you always, with women's cricket, you're always thinking of Nat Siver, aren't you? So Natalie's become abbreviated to Nats, but Natalie Brown makes her way to the crease. Thought she batted very nicely the other day for that 35. It was a swift innings as well in a difficult context, and I think it really helped Kate Cross get going.
It was, and it was 45. I did check this, 35 or 41 balls, so she actually had the highest strike rate of the Thunder on Monday.
And probably as high as anyone in that game, really, because it was a difficult pitch to bat on.
Yeah, and she also took the vital wicket of Amy Jones on Monday as well, so it was a good day for Natalie Brown.
Good all-round cricketer, and she just assesses the field. She sort of almost likes to adjust her gloves on her bat handle, does Natalie Brown, and she stands tall now waiting and will drive away off the back foot, but they've got the ring dead right today of the Central Sparks. There's 3 of them out there in the offside at the moment, backward point cover and short extra cover. There's also a mid-off and actually a gully now Liz Russell has come into, so it's a real packed look on that offside, and Brown couldn't find a way through it for a run from the first delivery and won't lay any bat on this to score from the second one.
Natalie Brown made her senior debut at 14, so that's some game.
It's impressive. Another young one, haven't they, in Hannah Jones in the side, the Thunder, today, as Boycott bowls, and Brown has to be watchful there of just exactly what Boycott was trying to do with the delivery. May have been a more or less straight one in the end, that, but Brown had to watch it all the way. Score remains on 62 for 3, as it was when Brown came to the wicket. Here is Boycott, short of a length, cut away behind square. Oh, there's a misfield from Thea Brooks, and that will allow the single to be taken, and the Sparks just providing a little let off there for Brown to get off the mark. 63 for 3.
And Boycott getting quite some oomph, even though it's not necessarily coming from a huge height. It's really banged in from that trajectory.
It's noon on Saturday the 5th of September, and you're listening to commentary of Central Sparks versus Thunder, and Rachael for the Thunder adds another to the total with a drive down the onside of the wicket. 64 for 3 the total moves to the analysis of Boyce's innings. 87 minutes, 61 balls. She struck 2 fours, including that excellent one through cover on the cut off the back foot. But having been out there for all of the game, she would have wanted to go on almost an hour and a half's batting for 27 runs, and she would have felt she'd have been on for 50 and beyond today. Yeah,
it's like you said, she could have done with somebody else with her, really, to just get it going. You know, they just didn't feel like they were energised enough to really crack on. And like you said, frustrating that she used a lot of balls but didn't get them going, really.
And certainly in terms of momentum at the moment, it is with the Central Sparks, with the score at 64 for 3. Patel and Boycott have come and made the most of a tight opening spell here, and they're trying to get the inroads as this one just props Rachael onto the back foot, and she drives into the onside. Russell there, no run. In comes Patel once more. Bowls from the near road end, appeal for LBW. It's an optimistic one because Rachael was taking a little chassé down the pitch, didn't connect with her bat, so the scoreboard won't move. Over towards the hotel on the left hand side. Of course, hotels at cricket grounds have been very useful this season, with Old Trafford, of course, down in Southampton as well, as this one turns through outside the off stump to Davis. No shot offered. 64 for 3 the score remains.
Old Trafford and Southampton have done quite well out of their men's cricket, haven't they?
Derby now is being used for the women's games that will be against the West Indies. Well, Eve Jones there was very lucky not to lose her front teeth, to be quite honest, because that popped horribly out of a foot mark, and she was able to just readjust and wear it on the shoulder. One taken. There was a little giggle from Patel there as she saw the funny side of it. Brown comes down onto strike. 65 for 3. I don't think Eve Jones is seeing the funny side of it at this precise moment. She just looks at her sleeve,
throwing herself round and getting bruised.
In comes Patel. It's thrown up and defended.
Respectfully knocked back.
Matt Brown there, leaning forward onto that front toe to ensure the ball went down. Dot ball. Here is Patel, throws it up again, worked away behind square. There's a single there. Arlott will have to just make sure she gets down from that tall height to the ball, and does so.
And that's what the Thunder haven't done, is just to knock it and run. You know, that real kind of let's rotate the strike and get the scoreboard moving, and all those cricketing cliches that actually, you know, are there for a reason, really.
And as you might have heard the scorers say in the box next to us, 66 for 3 the total at the halfway point of this innings. Just checking they've both got their books right. Oh, their computers these days, as we glance in there. No, there is a good old-fashioned book being recorded in both cases, which is always nice to see. They're such a work of art, those. I always remember as a child seeing the Brian Lara 501 that he made the scorebook of that, and all the batters down at 10 and 11 that had been used as extra space to keep recording that innings as it went on and on and on and on.
How big was that piece of paper?
I think at that age I thought it was an original, although I think they crop up around pubs in various parts of the world. Outside edge here, down towards third, there's a race on for Patel. Very good bit of fielding. Slides across, draws applause from the press box as she does so. 67 for 3, really good bit of work from Patel, helping out Boycott, who's got the couple of wickets from the Diglas end. Patel won herself as well, and she claps her hands to pass on the the adrenaline must be running to the others.
That's very handy because it was right down towards our commentary position.
Here comes Boycott, right arm over the wicket. Rachael driving into the offside, finds Thea Brooks. Yeah, really good bit of work. Left a little bit of an impact on the turf, but it needed to be done to keep the ball inside the rope, and she did it very well indeed. Here comes Boycott, bowls, and Rachael forward in defence, just watchfully starting her innings. A rebuilding job required here from 62 for 3. With Boycott and Patel having put the Thunder into a difficult position so far. Here comes Boycott again, defended down the onside of the wicket.
Yeah, he's getting a nice lot of pressure on that. Really good bowling from Boycott in terms of the speed she's putting down.
Here she comes again. Keeper Gwen Davis up to the stumps. There's a very busy little wasp is in the box. It's over the head of Brooks, and only just over the head of Brooks. It might run away all the way to the boundary, but it was a risky shot from Rachael, but one that's paid off. It takes the score past 70 to 71. Rachael moves on to 6. What did you make of that, Claire Jenkins? It was one of those balls in a game of cricket that could have gone either way there.
Yeah, I got very excited when it went up in the air. I was thinking, I'm hoping there's somebody, it's going to be a catch chance or something. Because we haven't really seen them put the ball up at all. It's been very low stuff, hasn't it?
Not the tallest of fielders is Brooks, and it's driven up to a mid-off there. Gets a nice long barrier down to ensure there's no way of the ball passing and no way of the score being added to. And the players make their way round. The trees just blow in the breeze slightly. The cathedral standing proud away to the left-hand side. Usually there'd be somebody trying to sneak in a very late in the season ice cream on the banks of that river at this time of year, but you would imagine there won't be too much of that going on, given everything going on in the world. But the beauty of cricket is we can forget it all for a Saturday afternoon.
I know. And how wonderful is it to be treated to some women's cricket on live streams, and a great tribute to Rachael Heyhoe Flint as well.
Make sure you give the little thumbs up button a bash on YouTube if that's where you're watching us via the live stream. It's very good to have you with us here today. Myself, Mike Perkins, and Claire Jenkins are delighted to be bringing you this commentary. There's a big appeal for LBW here. Now, was it creeping down the leg side? That seems to be the view of the umpire. Score remains on 71 for 3. I think it was... well, was it pitching in line if it was creeping down the leg side?
We really can't see from this angle.
No, we are on that angle, but it'll be an interesting one to watch back, that, as Patel comes in and bowls again, and this one's defended. Of course, that's the issue she will have with LBWs, is that she's bowling leg spin, and therefore there's always that chance of creeping outside the leg stump, and of course a batter can't be out in that fashion. As Patel walks in now, bowls right arm over the wicket, turned away, and they're going to chance her single to Boycott, who wasn't quite quickly in, and there's some backing up to do that Poppy Davis gets across and does very well in the end. 72 for 3. And that's what there's got to be a bit more of from the Thunder here, a bit of tip and run.
Just tick it, it really needs to be ticking over more.
Here comes Patel, bowls, and this one's swept, although not particularly cleanly in the end from Rachael. He's on 6, courtesy of the first boundary of the innings. It's one of the conversations I remember from Bank Holiday Monday that we had with former England cricketer Laura McLeod, as in comes Patel and throws it up, defended down the offside of the wicket. No run taken, and there was a very tight single between Home and Kelly, and she said the conversation would be along the lines of, if I drop it there again, we're going. And the conversation coming back from the non-striker should have been as Patel bowls, and this one is turned away, and Boycott won't actually be able to complete the fielding, but luckily Marie Kelly is there to to pick up and throw in, so only a single is taken, 73 for 3. And Laura McLeod was saying the response from the non-striker who'd been called through quickly should be, well, if I drop it in the offside, we're going for one as well, just to have that intent, and that seems to be what the Thunder need at the moment.
Yeah, I think intent's the right word, isn't it? You know, it's the drop and run. I'm just watching there, one of the batsmen just doing a gesture for a drop and run, so I don't know if the fielders have picked that up, but it's that move the score on, get some runs, change who's facing which bowler, just to get some energy into the game.
Discussions ongoing here.
Discussions
because we're going to see a change of bowling from the Diglis end. Thea Brooks coming into the attack. Well, we were expecting this to be the change that came. What do you make of when it's come? 27 overs gone.
Yeah, well, it kind of felt like the opening bowlers might have stayed on a little too long, and then suddenly we got the breakthrough with the change of bowlers both ends. So yeah, I think it's probably a smart time. Interesting in Thea Brooks, because she played the Diamonds, then Loughborough, then Vipers, KSL. So a journeyman KSL player, for want of a better term.
Yeah, journeywoman of the KSL, Thea Brooks, and
a winner of Warwickshire with the National T20 Championship. So plenty of experience there. And she's also due to play Birmingham Phoenix in the 100 next year.
Haven't seen too much of her in this competition just yet, but we're about to see her first contribution with the ball. As Gwennon Davis crouches behind the stumps. Brooks on her way, Diglis end, and delivers a ball that has Rachael working into the leg side, and it was a case of that. If we drop it out in that gap, we're going, and they did, and they got through. 74 for 3.
We need to see more of that. They need to really be putting the fielders under some sort of pressure and making Eve Jones, make some decisions about where she's going to put people. Really having to sort of think about changing that.
Here comes Thea Brooks again. Delivers, and that's gone through outside the off stump, and there was a horrible little sound as it passed the outside edge of Nat Brown's bat, but I think it was sort of bat on pad, or maybe it was the keeping kid of Gwennon Davis. There was excitement there, but no runs scored as Brooks bowls again, and they will go for a single behind square on the leg side. Patel again across with a useful little contribution there to stop it being more. 75 for 3. Elsewhere in this competition, the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy, we have the Lightning on 134 for 3 in the other game in the Northern Group, as Brooks comes in to deliver here at New Road. It's worked away behind square. Rachael will be looking for 2. She won't get it. Off the boundary comes home, and Davis had to crouch right down by the stumps to come up with a bounce, and did so well. Score on to 76. Southern Vipers 119 for 2 against the South East Stars, and the Western Storm 125 for 4 against the Sunrisers in the 2 Southern Group games being played. Eve Jones getting across with a stop at short extra cover. Full toss there that Nat Brown would have wanted to make more of, you would have imagined. Of course, it's a very tight competition, this one, and these sides are well in it, as this one's uppish, driven powerfully, and it's going to bounce over the boundary. It was an awkward bounce from the end for Millie Home. It's been struck powerfully by Nat Brown, getting down on the sweep. 80 for 3 the total goes on to with that 4.
It feels like the first time we've seen a real proper swing of a bat there, but it was kind of, in the end for the fielder, it wasn't a catch chance, and then trying to stop it, but not quite getting there.
Yeah, it was the first time there was sort of a kind of a risk out of the ordinary taken. Right. Okay, there was that chipped one which ended up being a risk, but it kind of wasn't an intentional risk.
Yeah.
From Brown there, that felt a really sort of intentional attempt of, right, we need a boundary here, and I'm going to make sure I do something to try and get it, and she did get it in the end.
You can almost feel the kind of, right, I'm having a go at this.
But she still kept a composure and a shape in the stroke, which is often the thing that is hard to do. Patel just waiting for a field. She has a gully, a backward point, a cover, and an extra cover, and a mid-off as she delivers now. This one is driven towards, well, it was cover point in the end, and no run is possible for Rachael.
No, straight to the player, unfortunately for Thunder.
So the Northern Diamonds top of this group on 9 points because they've had a bonus point win. As this one's cracked away into the onside, that's going to be 4th. Rachael came down the wicket, turned the Patel delivery into a full toss, and makes it 84 for 3. And a bit of intent from both ends now as Rachael moves on to 13.
Proper wallop there from Rachael.
And these two sides both have 4 points from Thunder getting the win in the first game and then getting beaten at Edgbaston by the Central Sparks. And the Sparks seem on top at the moment, but Rachael and Brown trying to do something about that. Rachael looking for the sweep there. If she connected, it would have been quite a nice shot because Boycott's sort of round from the usual 45 position that you'd expect in the leg side. She's a bit squarer than that, so there's plenty of room back there, but it's an indication that the pitch isn't the quickest. This one's clipped nicely again towards the mid-wicket boundary by Rachael. It would have been an excellent stop if Kelly had been able to get there, but she can't. 4 more runs, second time in the over, 88 for 3.
Yeah, it feels like Rachael's kind of getting a feel for the game now, and you can see why she's been picked up by Manchester Originals for their 100 side next summer.
As we say, a half century in the first game, that win for the Thunder, and she's targeted the short boundary there, which has brought Chloe Hill across to a straight mid-wicket. There's also a mid-wicket on the boundary. Will Rachael look to go offside? She does, with a forcing shot off the back foot, but still can't beat cover point. They've taken the fielder from the gully position, so the offside still fairly well packed, although Millie Home now retreats to the cover boundary after that dot ball because they don't want to concede a boundary off the last delivery. We were hearing in the first game about the importance of first and last balls, and I've heard that numerous times from various cricket coaches since. Actually, it seems to be the mantra these days as Chloe Hill does the fielding there and ensures the last ball of this, the 29th over, is a dot delivery. So 88 for 3 the score at the end of the 29th.
Yeah, and Patel has made some really great contributions so far with the ball, getting the first wicket. We've seen a couple of really nice pieces of fielding as well that's certainly saved runs, etc. Great to see her in the game.
Thea Brooks to start her second over of this game. The South Group's got a similar complexion as well, although the two teams that have one win have 5 points because they got bonus point wins, the South East Stars and the Western Storm. The Southern Vipers top with 9, so it's the Sunrisers who need to come to the competition in that group. Short from Brooks, but it didn't really bounce much, and it was driven straight to Marie Kelly at short cover. Brown can't find the gap. In comes Brooks again, bowls back of a length, sunglasses on Brooks, and is happy to see that go into Davis's gloves for a dot delivery. As forward walks Brooks again and gets through, and there's an appeal for something or the other. I presume LBW,
sure.
Because it hasn't bowled anybody and the ball's on the floor, so it can't be for a catch unless she feels she's knocked it onto the stumps and there was a lifted foot there and she was going for the stumping, Gwen Davis. Yeah, I think that was it.
Off, so
that must have been what she thought, but she didn't have the ball cleanly, which always puts a moment of suspicion in the umpire's mind, and if they're one who's particularly inclined towards benefit of the doubt, that would certainly be a benefit of the doubt. 88 for 3 it remains. A dot ball is all that will be recorded by our scorers to our left. No single on offer there.
Getting through the balls quickly here with Thea Brooks and a very short run up, just ambling in.
There's a drive from the last delivery from Brown. What will she produce on this occasion? Looks for that sweep. She likes that sweep, and it's going to be 4 runs. She's found the gap cleanly this time. It was a full toss in the end, although she was reaching for it, and takes the score on to 92 for 3. And all of a sudden, I have a theory that 100 for 3 is never a bad score in any game of cricket, and the Thunder are approaching that now, albeit with the best part of 30 overs already gone.
It was a nicely timed shot there from Natalie Brown, actually.
It's definitely a position to build from 13 to Brown's name. She gets forward again, meets it on the full, drives it back to Thea Brooks, and the over is complete. 92 for 3 then the score. Again, it was around about 30 scored from that last 10 overs. We were at 60 for 1 at 20. The next 10 began with a maiden over as well, but 32 again. They just need a big 10 somewhere here.
Yeah, as the players stop for a hygiene break to just get some hand gel on them.
You do feel sorry for the person who has to do the 12th duties in this day and age, because they have to not only have the stupid bib on, they have to have the mask and the big sort of PPE. Well, it's like an apron, isn't it? Really, a blue plastic apron on as well. It's quite a chore.
Yes, if you thought that 12th duty was already onerous, then having to be dressed up in what looks like they're going to do surgery or something, with the apron and the mask on, but all very necessary precautions to be taken in these very odd times.
Are there any of your former Somerset or Derbyshire colleagues you would have trusted to do surgery?
I'd have to think a long time about that.
I think the short answer is no.
I'm trying to think if I played with anybody. I mean, I can't know if I played with anybody who was even.
Well, I told you, I think,
I don't know.
not on commentary, that I made the mistake of asking somebody whose specialisms was hearts about a finger once, and it is now bent. So it's a risky business taking advice off teammates. So
yes, you sometimes get those playing teams where there's a physio and somebody dislocates a finger or something, and that's not something you want to be nearby, because physios cannot resist that. Let's put it back.
I've found the older you get, the more they seem to end up popping out the wrong way, fingers, actually.
It's the cricketers and fingers trying to catch.
It's not particularly pleasant. As
hard hit ball.
We await the approach of Patel. Reminder, #Sparks will fly at Mike Polly P and at 121. That's the numbers. Interv coach, INTERVCOACH.
See, Mike's wishing I had an easier Twitter handle now, unfortunately. I
Here
think.
comes Patel and bowls. Short of a length, this one's going to be crashed into the leg side, although it'll only be one run, because Eve Jones, the skipper, rather unusually actually for a skipper, is out on the boundary at square leg. 93 for 3 the score moves on to. We've got Matt Wheatley as well as Lisa O'Keefe watching. Saying, watching again today. Great to see you at New Road, Central Sparks. Best of luck. Sparks will fly, the hashtag he's got in touch with us on, as that one's played to Marie Kelly at short cover, who also, of course, has plenty of captaincy experience guiding the Birmingham Bears to the T20 women's title last season. She's there to pick up at short cover and prevent a run once again.
I gather you were being watched from Brazil last.
Argentina, I think it was.
Oh,
yes.
I knew it was South America.
It was Sean Kelly, so do get in touch with us again, Sean, as this one is appeal for LBW, but not given. I don't think we've quite got them coming up on the screen today, although I'm sure someone will correct me if they are coming up. But yeah, that was one of the ones I missed. I was quite disappointed to Sean Kelly, who I assume is a relation of Marie Kelly. I think we caused a little bit of stress in the Kelly family and friends, actually. Unfortunately, the cameras went down rather late in the game at Edgbaston.
I was watching that.
And we do apologise for that, but we think we've solved that particular issue. It will remain the same link if anything untoward like that was to happen today, and we'd be very glad of as tense a finish. That one worked into the leg side. No run to complete the over. 93 for 3, so not a maiden, but a tidy start to this latest set of 10 overs for the Central Sparks. And this game just has the feeling of, again, one that could go either way again. They've just worked their way back into it, the Thunder. They're certainly behind, but not by far.
Yeah, and it depends on how Sparks respond without Amy Jones at the top of the order of batting for them as well.
Paulette Farrell as well, the artist, saying she's enjoying the commentary. I know she's been very frustrated not to be able to get to cricket games. We'll keep working on the sound. We're on a new set of kit again today, so it's a work in progress, put it that way. But that one's driven down to Thea Brooks, who makes the stop. And a dot ball to start with. As in comes Thea Brooks again, floats it up, down the track comes Rachael, and it looked for a moment there as if that was either going to be 6 or out, and then she just reined herself back and drove down the onside.
You could almost
wicket for no
feel
run.
the intake of breath from the batsman.
Here comes Brooks, short of a length, and Rachael will crack this away on the front foot, but couldn't really get the power. It had been dug into the pitch rather by Brooks, that almost took the pace out the ball as it bounced up. 94 for 3 the score. In comes Brooks, throws it up, just placed into the offside by Brown, but it might be well placed indeed, because it's given a real challenge to Eve Jones. It was a quick second was taken.
And we're finally seeing the fielders challenged by second run, let's do it.
There's pressure put on there. 96 for 3 the score, so they're approaching that 100 for 3 mark, but they're approaching it relatively slowly, are the Thunder, as Brooks throws it up, full toss, but again played away to the cover fielder, this time straight at Eve Jones, who returns it on the bounce, as is the trend in white ball cricket. 97 for 3. The Cathedral standing tall and proud against a relatively blue sky, although as this one is delivered by Brooks, it's driven down the onside of the wicket. I think Paulette would need a little bit of white to paint in the clouds today if she was at this game. The goal makes its way over the top of those clouds as well, and that's the end of the over. 97 for 3.
Creeping close to that 100.
But it's whether they're leaving themselves time to do anything with it. 18 overs remaining in this innings. Anisha Patel is whirling through hers with great enthusiasm.
Yeah, with these two bowling, we're getting through the overs really quickly, aren't we?
And why not with a spell that has brought her her first wicket of the competition, as Patel comes in again and bowls, and it turned Brown right round, or certainly a bat right round, and she nearly missed it entirely, but did get just enough on it. Doesn't add to the total there, with the Thunder just trying to creep up towards a challenging total. Look for the sweep there. I don't think it was any contact. We'll find out in a moment. The arms are already stretching out to signify the wide, so 99 for 3 will be the total, with the 2 runs added because the batters swapped creases. Brings Rachael back onto strike. Patel in a 9th over here. 2 maidens, 16 for 1 before this one began. And she throws it up down the track. Goes the batter Rachael. I'm not sure. I don't think that was on the full, because there was no great excitement, but it had the appearance for a second.
Certainly warmed Anisha Patel's hands, I think.
Certainly from our position at long on, it had that appearance about it. Rachael down again, but again can't get there and has to drive back into Patel, who prevents the run off her own bowling.
I think you're right. If it had been a chance, I think there'd have been a slightly different, reaction from the bowler if it was that close.
Now smiling at Brooks and just tells her to take a few yards back at mid-on in front of us. Not a bad move at all. That one's slightly shorter. It's gone down the leg side, and that will bring up the Thunder's 100 with a wide, so they are 100 for 3. And this game, I feel slightly in the Sparks' favour just because of the number of overs that have gone. 17 remaining after this, but the Thunder do have a platform here as we approach 12:30 at New Road. Back goes Rachael, but again finds a fielder in the form of Brooks.
Yes, because we haven't seen Sparks batting innings yet, but it does feel like Central Sparks really haven't felt like they've been pressured at all.
Brooks coming all the way back to the boundary now, just in front of us, and she'll have some fielding to do. Chloe Hill put the dummy run in, but was never going to get there at mid-wicket.
Yeah, Patel sent Brooks back to the boundary and then bowled to her.
Single was a result. Threlkeld took it. 20 she's on. 101 for 3. There's a discussion going on, I think, about the number of players on the boundary, but
we're just checking.
it's fine.
Checking the fielding restrictions.
5 in the ring at the moment. 4 back on the boundaries at mid-wicket, long on. Out at cover as this one is chopped away and at backward square leg, but this is into the offside. Returned firmly by Marie Kelly to the gloves of Gwennon Davis. Dot ball ends the over. 101 for 3 as we glance over towards the trees. We're still looking very quiet on the drive through, although it was early on a Saturday morning, so
yeah,
only people out picking up the paper, really.
Yeah, we were quite early, weren't we, I suppose.
Claire Jenkins, former Somerset and Derbyshire cricketer, the voice you're hearing next to myself, Mike Perkins, thoroughly enjoying another game in the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. We'll keep an eye on those other scores for you throughout the day as well. It's an absolute delight to be able to bring you these commentaries, and as I say, make sure you give the little thumbs up a tap just so that we know you're enjoying things, because it'll help us do more, as is the way with these things in this internet era, as Threlkeld starts the 34th over of the game with a single struck out firmly to, well, straight mid-wicket in the end off the back foot.
We can't emphasise that enough, really. The more thumbs up we get on the YouTubes and the online streams for all of this Rachael Heyhoe Flint, the more.
As in comes Brooks, who bowls, and slightly different action it seemed there. I don't know if she's trying to do something different with the ball, but it's worked behind square for a single. 103 for 3.
Yeah, the more likes and the more retweets and the more engagement you have with the game, the better we do for profile and getting more live stream like this one underway.
Yep, it all adds up and it all helps promote this game that we all love so much and that we've been waiting so long for women's cricket, and we finally have it in the form of the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. 104 for 3. I'm sure Raf Nicholson, who's down in the press box, might have some views on that, so struggling to catch her eye just at the moment, but well, I'm sure we'll get her in before the end of the afternoon. As in comes Thea Brooks. This one played away into the offside. Eve Jones is there with the distinctive elbow guards on. Mentioned as well that players will be wearing that NHS emblem on their helmets as they come out to bat in this competition. Good bit of keeping there by Gwennon Davis, although it is a wide ball, disappointingly, for Thea Brooks. Takes the score on to 105 for 3, but it was a really nice take down the leg side there from Davis. She knocked off the bail as well, just as if to emphasise the point, as wicket-keepers like to do. Get the impression she enjoys her work, Gwen Davis, and is glad to have the gloves on. As we say, caught Georgie Boyce in both games at different positions, which is quite an unusual little quirk. That's the yellow 79 on her back, Gwennon Davis, but it's the yellow 29, the new number that we hadn't seen in this competition so far, of Poppy Davis, who's also a wicket-keeper, who picked up at mid-wicket. Single added, 106 for 3. Brooks just looks on. Patel has one more over which she can use, as this one is hit hard on the full toss, and they were looking for a single that perhaps wasn't meant. Run out, direct hit from Eve Jones. Draws applause away from her right from the press. 106 for 4. It was never really on. Okay, Jones had not gathered it cleanly because it was a firmly struck shot from the full toss, but it didn't go away from her a great distance. But Eve Jones made no mistake, hit the base of the stumps, knocked the bails off the top. Ellie Threlkeld is out for 22, run out by the captain Eve Jones. 106 for 4.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a diveable length. It was well run out, showing her frustration as she went kick the ball.
Well, she has to go one way and then turn round, which always makes it a lot more difficult to regain your ground. But
it's a shame, because Threlkeld was really kind of felt like she was just starting to put the bat to the ball.
And there's a feeling now that somebody has to come in for the Thunder here and just sort of pick things up, really, and just guide them to a total. Brown is getting herself in at the other end, but hasn't been as fluent as she was at Edgbaston. 18 off 31. And
we've got Rebecca
our new,
Duckworth
yes,
just coming in now.
another of the new numbers in the Thunder team. 26, Rebecca Duckworth. For anyone who weirdly does keep count of cricket players' numbers. But
they collect them like train numbers, is that?
Commentators do, I can assure you of that. They're very useful to us.
Okay. Yeah, very useful for us.
But
collecting them sort of slightly sounds a bit anarchy.
Yes. In comes Patel, ready to start trying to work out a new batter in the form of Duckworth, which you'll have to wait just now, because of course Brown's on strike, having sent, I would say quite rightly, Rachael back. And this one is defended off Patel's, the first ball of Patel's final over. And she delivers the second ball of it. Same results as the first, a dot delivery.
It's a real kind of classic spinner with guile action, isn't it? It's almost like delivered from behind her.
Yeah, there's lots of arms involved in Patel's action. They almost sort of come together and make a big windmill shape. Well, there's a wide ball there. 21st run that Patel has conceded in this spell, which is into its final over. Russell has 2 left, Arl at 4, Boycott 3, and Brooks another 6. Brooks is just down in front of us. Player useful with bat and ball. Hands on hips at the moment here at long on. Got a short mid wicket and a backward square leg in the circle, as well as 2 more fielders out on the leg side on the boundary. And Brown tries to target the offside. Gwennon Davis was convinced that was close. I'm not sure how close it was.
The wicketkeeper always thinks it's close, doesn't he? I just think, and great to see Eve Jones set the example in the field there with that run out.
107 for 4 as Patel approaches short of a length, and it's just was grubbing it into the pitch a little bit there was Patel, just to try and take the pace off the ball. But I think we witnessed a really good moment in that competition there, the run out from Jones. Probably didn't need to be a direct hit, but it was.
Yeah. And those are the things that fire people up, isn't it? It gets the fielders interested.
108 for 4 the score has gone on to with that single, brings Duckworth to strike.
Particularly when you feel like the batsmen are starting to feel like they're getting their eye in, so it's great to get a fielding.
And they're the moments that make the pictures and the little videos and all that kind of thing, which is always important, as this one is driven away into the offside. And Eve Jones will be very glad she dropped Laura Marshall on 5, which wasn't too costly, only another 20 added. It would have been a very difficult catch that, but she made no mistake with the run out, Eve Jones. Really good cricket from the Sparks captain. Patel forcing Duckworth back into the crease, defended, dot ball to finish the over with. Duckworth still on 0. 108 for 4 is the score. We've had 35 overs, so there are still 6 wickets in hand, but that last one, just, it almost now feels like the Thunder can't go completely from here. They can't sort of just throw caution to the wind in the way they might have been able to at 3 down with 15 overs to go.
I mean, I think this is going to be about Brown now, isn't it? She's got to really make the most of this now and take Duckworth with her, really.
19 to her name today, 35 before she was out bowled in the first game. Between these two sides, we should say. Thunder won their first game. It's Brooks bowls. This one's played into the offside, and the eager Eve Jones is there, and I think that one might have been hitting as well. The little swift underarm if Thea Brooks hadn't stuck her hand down.
She's got interested now that she's got that run out.
Here comes Thea Brooks again, sunglasses on, off-spin bowler, back in towards the stumps, but probably doing too much to even warrant an appeal there. Brown was trying to lift it into the leg side, as she's prone to do so. Lightning 159 for 5 in the other game in this group against the Northern Diamonds, so they're creeping along as well, although at a slightly swifter rate than the Worms wiggling here for the Thunder. No run from that delivery again, driven to Jones. Brown feels she's able to turn these into full tosses at times, but can't do so that one. It brings the outside edge. It may bring a very valuable 4 runs, but the chase is on, and Anisha Patel is very willing in the field and gets there and returns on the throw. So Brown will get back onto strike. 110 for 4, which is good because I hadn't been looking at the batters there. I wouldn't have known, but I just about managed to work that one out, and then I told everyone and gave it away. Here comes Thea Brooks, ready to try and find that outside edge of Brown again. If she'd had a slip there, she'd have been in definite business, but of course at this stage in a 50 over a side game she doesn't. Kelly in off the boundary, really grubs that in, and in fact Jeremy Lloyd is turning round towards Marie Kelly. I think Mike wanted to just go,
Keep the
think
ball
you
up,
can get it in at
please,
least one
ladies.
bounce from there. But she was, it's always the tactic, isn't it, to grub it into the pitch. 111 for 4 as Brown gets to the non-striker's end. Moving into the southern group, Vipers are 150 for 3 against the Stars, as this one goes through outside the off stump. Bales knocked off by Gwen Davis. Thea Brooks with the ball. A dot recorded. Over completed. 111 for 4. So 3 off it. Still not really what the Thunder are looking for, but they'll be, I suppose, trying to get to the 10 over mark to go here with 4 down, and then they can have a crack from there and try and wallop a few over the fence and get some quick runs.
They really need to accelerate, don't they, if they can have something to defend. And that's the power play again.
Yep, the stage it has to be taken.
Yep.
And it will be Russell to come on and replace Patel, so she's going to try and just creep her 2 overs in here, you would imagine.
Yeah, and these batsmen haven't seen this bowler yet, have they? So, well, not today anyway. So,
as I say, Thunder certainly behind in the race if you're racing the scores in the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy, because Western Storm 184 for 4, Southern Vipers 157 for 3, and Lightning 167 for 5. So on course for bigger totals in the games elsewhere, although the Central Sparks games have been fairly low scoring so far in this one, or in this competition so far anyway. Taking a long time just to sort the field out here, as Chloe Hill is the latest to be moved. So we're going to end up with a deep backward square leg. We're going to end up with Boycott at mid-wicket, Thea Brooks at mid-on, and then we have mid-off, short extra cover, cover on the boundary, cover point really, backward point, a gully has come in, and we have a fielder down at third. Liz Russell coming into bowl, short of a length, it's forced away on the back foot, single will be taken. 112 for 4 the score moves to the fielder on the boundary there, and we, I think, imminently have the new arrival in the box in the form of Raf here, as Liz Russell back of the mark, just preparing to deliver the second ball of this over, and here comes Russell and delivers it right on off stump. Dot ball again. A welcome to Raf Nicholson. How nice to have you here at New Road.
Thanks very much for having me. Yeah, it's an interesting match that's unfolding before us, isn't it?
It certainly is. I was just saying that the Central Sparks games have been low scoring, but the one on Bank Holiday Monday was very, very tense. So the 2 balls from the first wickets was the first 2 deliveries, the 2 wickets made it very exciting, but then it became such a tense game towards the end, whereas the others, the scores seem to have been quite healthy. Dot ball there.
Yeah, so I was at Beckenham watching the South East Stars in both the matches last weekend, and they were both fairly one-sided. Obviously Heather Knight kind of dominating for Western Storm in the first match.
In comes Russell from the New Road end, delivering her 9th over. This one is defended into the offside. She'd gone for 20 runs in her first 8 overs. So how were, as you say, they were one-sided games and dominated by Heather Knight in one instance down there?
Yeah, that was the first match. Storm beat the Stars, and then the Stars fought back and won the game on the Monday, which was against the Sunrisers, and that was Sophia Dunkley's day, really. In
comes Russell, who gets forward and defends out into the offside. Jones picking up, no run. I was pleased to see Dunkley getting some runs, both in that bio-bubble series, because I saw when Anya Shrubshow was umpiring, she got a bit of a rough decision when I was watching that feed from her teammate, and so I was quite pleased to see in the next game she got some runs, and was she looking impressive in that game you saw her in? Yeah, she certainly was, and it was really unfortunate actually. She got out on 97, so yeah. Here comes Russell to deliver short of a length and just threw into the gloves of Davis, so a dot to finish the over. 112 for 4. Thunder still just struggling to find the pace in this innings. But yeah, no, it was an impressive performance, and then she got into the 90s, and I think she did that quite typical thing of for younger players. She got a bit nervous and just kind of lost her stride slightly, and then, as she described it, as a brain fart when she was on 97 to get out. So the England coach Lisa Kiley was actually at Beckenham watching, so we kind of said at the time it won't have done her chance of being selected for the forthcoming internationals against the West Indies any harm at all, but it was just slightly unfortunate the way it ended. Yes, yeah, always a shame not to get to those 3 figures, even though it's such a kind of, it's arbitrary in so many ways, but then it isn't, as Brown just turns this one into the leg side, continues to add to her total. She's up to 24, 113 for 4 score, because there's been quite a few scores in the night. I think Heather Knight herself got one of them, but also Amara Carr was a very noticeable one, and of course that ended on the most tragic number of all, as this ball is bowled and driven up to mid-off, no run possible on 99, which is the worst one to go for, I think. Yeah, especially in a losing cause. I think with the Heather Knight one, she got to 91 and they ran out of runs to acquire, basically, so no complaints there. Brooks turns it away into the leg side. Patel, who's been so willing today and has done some good work for her team, but can't prevent a second run on that occasion, so the score moves on to 115 for 4. But I mean, Amara Carr played beautifully in that game. Looking at the video back, I mean, some of the strokes there were very authoritative indeed. As Brooks comes in down the leg side, goes Gwen and Davis. Wide ball is signalled as a result, so 116 for 4 the score moves to. Yeah, Amara's obviously one of the 3 new professionals at the Sunrisers and is kind of relishing that, I suppose. Brooks comes in and bowls. This one's driven into the offside, and Eve Jones is across to do the fielding. And that's one of the great things about this new setup, really, isn't it? That it is offering those players who've been in the system for years the chance to finally earn some money. As Brooks is another one of those, will be with the Phoenix when the 100 does finally arrive. The delayed 100, as that ball went through outside the off stump. No interest from the umpire in raising the arms, though, so Brooks got what she intended, which was a dot, and she just gets another one here as well, despite deflecting off her boot. 116 for 4 at the end of the over. And in terms of the competition, I mean, the thing with Laura McLeod has been dropping in quite regularly, of course, former England player involved with the Central Sparks, and saying it is a one-off in name only. This is going to be the structure going forward, at least for a few years. What do you make of that, as somebody with your knowledge and experience, of course, writing for the Cricket Her website and plenty of academic research you do on the women's game as well in the past and the history of it? Yeah, well, first of all, it's great that they've named it the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. It is a really important nod to the history, to somebody who made such a difference to the history of women's cricket, so that's lovely. But I also think it's important, that we recognise that this is going to be an integral part of the women's structure going forward. Russell bowls. This one's driven into the offside. A little bit of urgency from Brown, who knows she needs to get back for the second if she can, and she does so relatively comfortably in the end. 118 for 4. Russell into her final over. So we've just got this kind of one-off 50-over trophy this season, but I believe that the idea is that the regions play both 20-over and 50-over cricket next season, and then going forward this becomes the kind of main domestic competition rather than the county stuff. Here is Russell, short of a length. It's driven straight down the ground, and Eve Jones is across. I know it's always a difficult thing to ask you to explain ECB policy, because it can seem it's constantly changing, and that's sort of one of the challenges a developing game often has.
Yeah, I think that I wrote a piece last weekend suggesting that perhaps it hadn't been communicated in terms of what the regional competition is actually for, in the sense of, is it a development competition, or is it a kind of competition where obviously we've got all this set up with commentary, live streams, which is brilliant for people who are following women's cricket, but if it's a development competition, there's a little bit of a tension there between it being the best be the best versus our players being told, well, you're a bit too old to play in this competition, and I think that's been slightly inconsistent across the regions, actually.
Voice of Raf Nicholson from the editor of Cricket Heyhoe, joint editor of Cricket Heyhoe, as Russell bowls, and this one's cut away behind square on the offside. Single taken, score moves to 119 for 4. Brown gets to the non-striker's end.
I think some of the tension is actually based on what you've just said about the 100, which obviously isn't running this season, unfortunately, but when that does get up and running this season, how does the regional competition fit around the 100, which is obviously the big high profile, huge kind of fancy glitzy competition, really?
In comes Russell and bowls a definite slower ball there, took plenty off it to make it difficult for Duckworth to move her score on. Dot ball.
So most of these women's domestic players will be playing in both of the competitions, but it's the regional structure that's really important, as I see it, because that's the one that's going to run all year round, and is going to give these players kind of professional opportunities, really. Whereas the 100 is going to be, they are going to be paid to play in it, and some of them will be paid quite a good sum, but it's only going to run for a few weeks a year.
Here comes Russell, bowling right arm over the wicket, forced off the back foot, and Duckworth will scamper through for the single. 120 for 4. The Thunder just inching along here. We've had 39 overs so far in this game, so it just feels it needs a bit of impetus here from the Thunder, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely, and that's, to some extent, that's what we saw last week at Beckenham. I don't know whether it was similar here, that you're kind of seeing players who are used to the rhythms of county cricket, women's county cricket, not very high scoring, often very attritional, and we're kind of seeing similar here, that actually some of these players are struggling a bit to push the score on, even when a few wickets fall, and really that's what you need to do. Otherwise you could see Thunder being all out for under 150, and then that you'd think would be reasonably easy for the Sparks to chase down.
Yeah, it was strange at Edgbaston because the pitch was very sort of slow and sticky, so it proved quite a problematic total, but it was one you felt the Sparks were always going to get to, although I think a few of the people following this team were getting worried at times, because it was just inching along. Single taken there by Duckworth to start the over with, 121 for 4. Thea Brooks continuing her work from the Diglas end.
I guess that game at Edgbaston really showed the importance of somebody like Marie Kelly, because it was her who really saved it for the Sparks, wasn't it? And again, somebody who's been in the system playing county cricket for years and hasn't had those high profile opportunities.
Brooks comes in and bowls, and there's an appeal for caught behind, and it's out. Gwennon Davis there with the catch, and Nat Brown, who looked as if the batter was the one who was needed to force this on, is out. She walks away shaking her head, bat over the right shoulder, and 121 for 5 is the score, and the Thunder now are really going to have a struggle to get to a total, you feel, because they're going to have two batters pretty much starting from scratch here.
I think this is exactly what I was saying about they could end up now being all out for not very many, when really what you needed was one of the top 4 to push on the score a little bit more. It's all very well to hang around and to be there, but if you then aren't there at the end, then your hard work at the top has been for nothing, and you haven't actually pushed the score along anyhow. So it's a really tricky position that the Thunder are finding themselves in now.
It's that line between being responsible and not giving your wicket away, but also making sure things are accelerating and moving in the right direction.
I think especially now you haven't got the England players with these teams. Actually, some of the more senior players, kind of in the regional setups, need to step up a bit, really, don't they? So that would be somebody like your Georgie Boyce at the top of the order. You would want her to actually, be left with a strike rate that was actually relatively low when she got out. And yeah, she would be so important to this Thunder batting lineup. And you know, despite the fact that she hung around for a few overs, how much did she really kind of contribute to pushing the score along? There was a very tricky few overs in the middle, wasn't there? I think that Sid Egan, my cricket her partners, just tweeted a kind of worm of the innings, which suggests that there was 5 overs between overs 20 and 25, and they only scored about 6 runs, which you know, very difficult.
Heaps starting with a dot ball, a new batter to the crease, and we'll work this into the leg side. Threatening to throw there was Arlott, but she'll still have some more bowling to do. Yeah, no, you look at those scores, 25, 27, 22, 27, they're all starts, but as you were saying quite rightly there, Raf, nobody pushing on as this one is prodded away into the offside. Again, no run possible, 121 for 5. And just going back to the sort of the adaptability that women's cricket has had to have, which I'm sure through your research you've seen in many interesting guises, as that latest ball is a dot delivery. It can sort of become frustrating for people like us, journalists, historians in your case, fans of the game, who kind of they want to see those big moments, those big leaps, as we saw at the T20, the World T20 final in Australia. But equally, when we speak to people like Laura, it's all about making sure whatever's happening, going on around it, that it is moving forward step by step. Sort of, is that one of those things where, when you look at it, that you do find frustrating? I suppose you must be really glad when you do see something like what happened in Australia over the winter.
Yeah, I was really lucky to be at the MCG in March for those 86,000 fans crowding into Melbourne. It was amazing, and I think that obviously Laura McLeod's looking at it from a slightly different perspective and saying, well, actually, a lot of the focus has been on the international setups here in England. It's been on the England squad and that bubble, well, not bubble. That's obviously a new term for Corona times. But that's training squad at Loughborough, and outside of that, perhaps the ECB has neglected domestic women's cricket. Obviously we've had the Kia Super League, which has been really successful, but in terms of the women's county setup, it's been really neglected, and we haven't had that, which is obviously kind of the importance of that is for the training the England players of the future. That's not been given very much focus.
Boycott bowling from the new road end. It's forced down the offside of the wicket, no run taken. And you mentioned Marie Kelly there as well. I mean, she seems to be the sort of player that this 8-team structure is for, as Boycott comes in and bowls again. This one turned into the leg side. It's an interesting introduction of Boycott here, actually. 121 for 5 remain, because she sort of was in and around the England team as a younger player, and then it's about having somewhere to go and being able to make a 59, where she really grounded out the other day to sort of prove her worth, as Boycott bowls it, and this one's forced away into the offside. A single taken, and Millie Home will do the fielding. 122 for 5, because there's heaps of players who've had that sort of career path in county cricket, which I'm used to watching, but you don't see it as much in women's cricket. It's kind of, unless you're a real aficionado, it's difficult to know where those players go, and they maybe haven't had the standard of cricket that Marie Kelly clearly got the other day on Bank Holiday Monday. And Boycott's proving herself a very useful operator in the Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy. She picks up another wicket, just skidding one through. The score goes to 122 for 6. Heaps' very brief innings is over for naught, and I think you've called it here, Raf. I think from your experience of watching the women's game, it's going to be actually maybe a struggle to get up to 150 now for the Thunder.
Yeah, I think you're right. 6 down with 122 on the board. You can see the next 4 wickets falling for not very many extra runs added, and this is where you really wanted, as I said, one of the top 4 to hang around and still be there. So it's going to be potentially a bit of a tame end, and this is something that happens regularly in women's county cricket actually, is that you know, once you get 4 or 5 down, it can be tricky for teams to put a score on the board, and in some ways, it's the same players who are populating this competition as populated women's county cricket. And while this is obviously a hugely important step forward in the women's domestic setup, these players aren't going to get better overnight. So I suppose we have to some extent, see this as a kind of developmental opportunity. But yeah, I do think that for this season, this Rachael Heyhoe Flint Trophy, we are going to see these kind of low scores, and we are going to see these middle and lower order collapses. As I'm kind of used to seeing it in women's county cricket as a U.
Olivia Thomas coming to the crease, played a supporting role for Kate Cross in the previous game between these sides on Bank Holiday Monday. Starts with a dot. She batted for 16 not outs, 74 minutes, 72 balls, 1 4. It's something very different indeed required here. So it is a learning experience in itself, having to come in these situations. 122 for 6 to score. Boycott's on her way. Bowls short of a length, but still brings Thomas forward. Dot ball.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on what you said about this being the ideal competition for Marie Kelly and players of her ilk, and I think that's a really interesting point, and I completely agree with you, but I'm not convinced that all the regions are seeing it in that way. Okay. I do think there's a little bit of tension, as I said, between those who see this as a development competition and are being given kind of guidance and are reflecting on it as well. The players who should be selected for this are the ones who are going to play for England in the next 3 to 5 years. So then you've obviously got the focus on your 17, your 18-year-olds. Marie Kelly's, 26 maybe?
24 now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, Marie. Added on a couple of years there.
I only know because I said she had a shirt number. Her age was one above her shirt number, and then we discovered it was a Charlotte Edwards tribute, if you like, with the shirt number 23, as that one was worked away. And actually, the innings she played the other day, it really reminded me of one that Lottie played out in Australia that I remember listening to, where she really grounded out in a tight test match, and that was the sort of thing we saw from Kelly the other day. As in comes Brooks, floats one up, it's driven, but not with any great power, and the board remains on 122 for 6.
So at 24, I guess it's possible that she does still harbour England ambitions, and I think that should be encouraged.
Brooks bowling, and this one is hit towards short extra cover, and again it's a little bit of a finger cruncher for Eve Jones, who got that impressive run out earlier in the innings.
But there are certainly players in their later 20s and their early 30s who are good enough to be selected for this competition, who haven't been selected on the basis that they're, in quotes, too old.
As this ball is bowled and it's forced away, tumbling stop by Marie Kelly, and then needs the assistance of Eve Jones as well. One taken, 123 for 6.
So it does reflect a certain tension, I feel.
There's a sort of crossed purpose there, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I'm very much in favour of people being picked to play in this and it being the best possible competition. And I think if you're a youngster, that's the way to develop yourself as well. Thomas
on strike, drives, but doesn't quite get it down the onside of the pitch as she'd hoped. Brooks will take the dot ball. And actually, for me, this is one of the aspects of this competition. I mean, you hear countless stories from cricketers who sort of have had to make a decision, as this one will be a decision for the umpire and it'll be out. Olivia Thomas isn't happy with it, but she will depart LBW without adding a total to the board. She is out for naught, a second successive naught in the Thunder innings, which is rather falling apart at 123 for 7. It looked straight enough from Thea Brooks. Thomas felt it was turning down the leg side, I think, but she seemed to have been hit in a very awkward part of the crease there, and the umpire had to make the decision, puts the finger up, and the Thunder in a little bit of bother.
She's just completely thwacked her bat against one of the sideboards, I think it was, as she was walking off, so she's obviously very unhappy about that, but hard to tell whether she's annoyed with herself or annoyed at the decision, but either way I'm not convinced the Thunder dressing room is going to be a particularly happy place as she walks back into it.
No, I think she might be given a little bit of distance for the next 5 or 10 minutes there, Olivia Thomas. I think it was a water bottle actually on the side.
It made a big noise anyway.
But yes, well, Olivia Thomas out for naught after her impressive contribution in the partnership with Kate Cross yesterday, and we once again are searching for a new batter. Alice Dyson will be the person to come to the crease. But as I say, constantly you're hearing of cricketers, women's cricketers, having to make decisions between career and playing, and actually this is one of the things that, okay, it's in a lot of cases it's not offering a full career, but at least it's now offering part of a career, and it's a chance to have more people like Alex Hartley, a World Cup winner, coming back and captaining a side like the Thunder, which obviously the other younger players that you're mentioning, the 17, 18, 19-year-olds who could play for England, are inevitably going to learn from.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It does kind of, and it gives those England players who have lost contracts something to fall back on, which is so important. So previously, Alex Hartley, I think that she was talking earlier this summer about when there was uncertainty around whether there would be any women's cricket, about having to go off and get a job, stacking shelves in a supermarket or whatever. Somebody like Tash Farrant, who we were watching captaining the Stars last weekend, would previously, having lost her England contract, have had to go off and think about something else, earning money that wasn't necessarily cricket related, and now she's got that opportunity, that kind of fallback contract. So it is really important in so many ways, and it was something that we talked about a lot last summer when England were so comprehensively beaten in the Women's Ashes, this need to refine the domestic setup.
In comes Arlott, bowls short of a length, and this one is defended back down the pitch. No run taken, 123 for 7 it remains. And actually this was when I was asking those questions that everybody was asking about how that gap could be closed. This was the structure that got mentioned, this 8-team structure, obviously dictated by the 100 slightly, but it's interesting we're getting a look at it here, and we're getting a look at Emily Arlott, who's come back into the attack after Liz Russell has completed her spells, and that will be a dot ball. 21 for no reward in her first 6 overs, Emily Arlott. There was a maiden in there too, and she's trying to add to that now for the Central Sparks. Just throws the ball out, seems spinning once at the end of her run, and she's on her way. Bowling, and this one is driven into the offside. Eve Jones looks as if she has complete control of this game at the moment as the skipper, which is how she'll like it.
The scoreline certainly suggests that she does, doesn't she? And that was a brilliant execution of that run out earlier by Eve Jones, wasn't it, after dropping that catch early on, so she's kind of slightly made up for that.
Well, it almost didn't need to be a direct hit, and it was almost it was virtually a case of showing off from Eve Jones in there at short cover. She's fielded there almost throughout this tournament. In fact, it was quite a surprise to see her at backward square leg at one point. Single taken to Thea Brooks at mid-on, 124 for 7 the total moves on to. Duckworth to the non-striker's end, and Dyson is the latest to come to the wicket and mark a guard at the Diglas end and try and eke out a total for the Thunder.
Eve Jones, another one obviously in that list of people who's been in their setup for a long time and hasn't necessarily had those opportunities because of the domestic setup being entirely amateur up till now.
In comes Arlott, bowls right arm over the wicket, it's driven to the left of Jones, who'd put cover back on the boundary for extra protection, and takes, or allows, a single to be taken there that brings Duckworth back onto strike. 125 for 7, Dyson off the mark.
There's an interesting process that the Sparks appear to have gone through with the selection of Eve Jones as captain. Are you aware of this?
Well, I heard the players were heavily involved, and it was kind of basically a vote. Is that the gist of it? As in comes Arlott and bowls short of a length. This one pulled away. It will only find Russell at mid wicket, and she shows she's got a dead eye as well by throwing down the stumps, although on that occasion for no particular reason. Dot ball.
Yeah, no, exactly as you say, that it was a kind of process of popular vote for the captain, which I thought was quite interesting. You don't see that very often, do you? It tends to be you would have thought that it would be kind of Laura McLeod as regional director or the head coach kind of making that call, but an interesting way to select your captain, certainly.
Yeah, well, I guess it was a difficult one because you've got Marie Kelly, who had the success in the 2020 tournament with the with Warwickshire or Birmingham Bears, depending on whether the sponsors are listening or not, and what you want to call them. But she came in and had that impact there, so it would have been a tough call. There's Thea Brooks at the back of her mark, comes in and delivers, and just has the feel of she's been bowling all afternoon from that Diglas end. Thea Brooks just whirling away and sticks another dot in her collection. Spins herself a couple of practices first, and now he's approaching again. Swept well by Dyson, and for once Patel's fielding isn't up to scratch. It came at her quick and it bursts through and goes away for 4 behind square on the leg side. 129 for 7. 4 precious runs for the Thunder.
Yeah, they haven't had a boundary for a few overs now, have they? So every one counts at this stage, particularly in the match.
Yeah, boundaries have been few and far between in this game, full stop. That was just the 12th from a quick count up there, as that one is driven down the offside. Brooks is there with the fielding. No run scored. Davis has to wait as the Flies have decided they are going to attack the wicket keeper. She settles back in now, as does the batter Dyson, who's going to club this one into the leg side, and there'll be 4 more here. 2 boundaries in the over, breaking the tension for the Thunder. Takes the score on to 133 as they just try to eke out a total.
This is what I wanted to see. This is what I was saying. Let's add some impetus to the innings, even at this stage. You know, whack a few and really go for it, rather than just kind of letting the wickets tumble and you know, being slightly passive about it, which it feels like they have been perhaps for the last few overs.
Well, that one was clubbed away in a very certain fashion across the line, but of course it was a full toss, so that was exactly what it deserved, and it went away to the straight mid-wicket boundary. In comes Brooks again, digs it into the pitch to ensure it can't be clubbed away. I think it's quite rightly the batter Dyson's wondering why that wasn't a wide ball, claiming the batter had moved inside it. But 133 it remains, as Brooks prepares again. Right arm over the wicket, Diglis end, full toss, driven powerfully, this time into the offside. Kelly's there with the fielding, and causes a little bit of trampoline work for Gwen and Davis, the wicket-keeper, but she does it well. 134 for 7 is the score. I'd like to say we've got Raf Nicholson with us as well, and well, we've been going through that kind of debate, I suppose, about the more experienced players, and I guess it is a balance, but you want them there to pass that experience on, and it's kind of having that balance, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and we saw that for the Stars last weekend. They have got experienced players who are kind of you know, able to actually sort of clap the younger players on the shoulder when things aren't going so well, and that's so important that you have players like that in your team. You know, somebody like Alex Hartley, the experience that she brings.
In comes Emily Arlett and bowls. This one worked away into the leg side. There's a single behind square where Marie Kelly comes in off the rope to retrieve the ball. 135 for 7. Dyson moves on to 11.
And I just think it's that balance, isn't it? We always talk about it being important to have a balance of youth and experience. It's almost a cliche, isn't it, in cricket? But if you don't have that, and if it's much more of a kind of development competition, and so, you know, players over 25 are kind of seen as past it, I think that's really unfortunate.
In comes Arlett to bowl from the new road end. This one driven into the offside, no single take. I mean, it's a thought I heard Kate Cross and Alex Hartley making on their podcast, that they found the conversations of the younger players were almost quite alienating to them, and then that's a point I've heard behind the scenes made before, and it's one of the sort of difficulties older players have had in the past in women's cricket. As Arlett comes in again to bowl, and this one is through outside the off stump. Davis is excited behind the stumps again, but on this occasion, for no reason, she did whip the bails off just in case. 135 for 7 it remains. I
guess when you're throwing a new team together, like this really has been put together very much at the last minute, with the players being selected at the last minute, kind of it's been forced on them by COVID, hasn't it? That's especially important to cultivate that sense of team unity and team spirit. So you do need to have those kind of relationships formed between the older and the younger players, and it's difficult to do.
Arlett bowls, and this one's played into the offside. Boycott's there with the fielding at backward point. Dot ball to Arlett's collection.
It's actually really quite strange in some ways to think of Alex Hartley as the sort of senior pro in that way, because she's so much somebody who likes to joke around and have a good time, and kind of enjoy her cricket. The idea that she's sort of the mature one is perhaps something that she maybe personally might struggle with, despite that being now her role.
Here comes Arlott bowling. This one played into the offside. Runs on offer. In fact, a run on offer as Jones tries to get there with the fielding, but Millie Home, rather obligingly for a captain, picks it up just after the slide didn't quite have the effect it intended. 136 for 7. There's one thing for sure, that the Thunder team are certainly going to have fun in this this competition under the captaincy of Alex Hartley. Certainly if her podcast's anything to go by, it's a laugh a minute.
Yeah, absolutely, and her commentary on the BBC as well has been quite fun to listen to, hasn't it?
Here comes Arlott, short of a length. This one played away into the leg side. It's upish, but won't quite end up in the hands of Marie Kelly, who returns on the bounce. 137 the score moves on to with that stroke there. So the Thunder approaching that 150 mark, which I think would be the minimum they want. They've got 5 more overs to add to it here at New Road. But yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, I was almost considering at one point starting a kind of a Stuart Broad's batting account for Alex Hartley as on the radio account, because she's a very entertaining presence. Although it could be an Alex Hartley's captain in a cricket team, because no, equally has plenty to offer. I think I might get a chance to speak to her on Thursday at Egbert, which would be very nice indeed. So we'll look forward to that one. But our focus here is at New Road at the moment, and Thea Brooks bowling short of a length, and Gwennon Davis does the keeping behind the stumps. Dot ball. Sun out in fairly defiant fashion at the moment for September. Blue skies above, a few clouds in the sky too, just to complete the picture, and that one is turned away behind square on the offside. And there's the thought of 2, and they're going to come back for 2, and they're going to have to hurry, but they do, because the throw from Boycott didn't quite arrive in time for Davis with the gloves on. 139 for 7.
Now presumably Gwennon Davis didn't play last weekend because Amy Jones was here, is that right?
No, she did. She's actually, the interesting point with her is this ball comes in and it's clapped away into the leg side. Behind square it rolls eventually, but Dyson hit it that well. She's only going to pick up 140 for 7. She's actually caught Georgie Boyce in the last 2 games from different positions, once at backward point and once with the gloves on today. So yeah, she's been involved in this competition so far as the drive goes out into the offside. She made an enterprising 33, I'm going to say, as I hurriedly checked my notes in the first game as well. She was the bright point really of the Sparks batting in that first game, as this one's driven down the onside, and there's a little fumble by Hill which will allow a single to be taken. 141 for 7, and then was run out in bizarre fashion, unfortunately. It just sort of stalled the Sparks innings, but she's a busy cricketer, and she's been busy in the competition so far as Gwennon Davis, as this one is behind square on the offside. Boycott comes in and picks up. It's returned to the non-striker's end for the damage of only 1 run. 142 for 7. But I think the happiest we've seen her is with those gloves on today.
Yeah, as you say, likes to be busy behind the stumps. She was very instrumental in Warwickshire winning the T20 County Cup last season, and I remember interviewing her at Beckenham. She hit back-to-back half-centuries. I think it was against Middlesex and Kent. I think that was the first round of the T20s. So at that stage it was kind of still anyone's competition, and Kent had just won the Women's County Championship, but she certainly was very much on form with the bat that day last year. And then of course Warwickshire went on and they beat, so I suppose you could say this is a bit of a grudge match, because Warwickshire beat Lancashire to win the T20 Cup in the last match of last season, and they it was very much Warwickshire kind of slightly coming back from behind to win that T20 Cup, which potentially could be the last ever county T20 Cup. There was going to be one earlier this season played, but obviously fell victim to COVID. and I believe they said there was going to be one next season, but we haven't had that confirmed. So yeah, Warwickshire the current holders of that.
Yep, and they'll get to keep their paws, I suppose, it being that part of the world with the Bears nickname on the trophy for some time, you would imagine, as this one's driven back to Emily Arlett, but can't turn it onto the stumps as I think she was attempting, but no run is added against her analysis. And Arlett's back towards the end of her mark. But I mean, Gwennon Davis is another one of these journey women cricketers in the KSL. She's been around a few plays. I think Diamonds and Lightning were amongst them, as this one is played into the offside, and Eve Jones is able to gather, and I guess she'll be hoping she sort of found a home here that she can kind of build on over a few years as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I'm right in remembering that she's a teacher, so she gets to use her cricket kind of, when she's not actually playing, which is obviously the ideal thing that you want.
In comes Arlett and bowls right arm over the wicket. New road end. It kept a little on the low side there, which would have alarmed one or two, but the umpire could see all three stumps, so there was no appeal for LBW. Dot recorded. I think she actually teaches Izzy Wong, which is must have been rather bizarre for them on the field the other day, as Izzy Wong was ripping through 3 wickets in that very exciting spell of fast bowling on Bank Holiday Monday.
It must be quite nice seeing one of your protégés come good, and obviously, quite possibly we might see Izzy Wong for England in the not too far distant future.
It's a good chance of getting out of a bit of homework if your teammates as the teachers. This one is played down the ground. It was sort of shovelled there, really. One taken, 143 for 7, but Dyson's come in and laid a bit of bat on ball, which is exactly what the Thunder needed, and she did so again there.
17 off 17, that is quite an impressive effort there. I'm not convinced anyone else in the innings has got a strike rate of 100.
No, I think you're struggling to find, you can only find 2 others above 50 in fact.
That makes my point quite well, yeah.
And they're only just above 50 at 56 and 57 as Arlett bowls, and this one is driven away just behind square on the offside. Good bit of fielding by Boycott, although it's bounced away from her, and there was all sorts of thoughts about a second, and both batters returned to their respective creases. 144 for 7. The Thunder, you think, are going to be nailed on for this 150. It's just how many they can add to it now in the closing stages. They'll have 3 overs after this ball. Jogging through is Thea Brooks. We probably will get Claire Jenkins back in for the last couple, just so that we can round things off, but we've had Raf Nicholson with us, which is great, as this one's chipped over the top of short mid-wicket. Brooks is sprinting round. There's going to be 2 on here, and why not, with wickets all of a sudden in hand, 3 of them to go and only 3 overs remaining. 145 for 7. A massive thanks to Raf for her time. I'm sure we'll get some thoughts from you in the second half as well. It's been a really interesting to have a chat with you and get the benefit of your expertise, really, because I don't feel there are many who watch more of the women's game than yourself. So thank you
very much for having me.
Lovely stuff. So we'll get Claire just to pop back in for the last couple of overs as well. And well, the game's really, we were wondering which direction it might move in as the Thunder were approaching 100 for 3, and it seems to have moved fairly decisively towards the Sparks, although the chase of 136 was a tense one in the game on Bank Holiday Monday, so there's no reason to believe that this will not be a tense one here today in the second half of this game. It's well worth sticking with us. As I say, the more of you do, the more chance it gives us of doing some more of these, and we certainly want to get that audience up as high as we can. So Claire Boycott is coming into the attack from the Diglas end. Eve Jones just having a chat. We'll take a look through the hashtag Sparks Will Fly feed on Twitter as well during the interval, and try and bring you any comments we have on there, so do keep them coming in. At Mike Polly P and at 1-to-1 Interv Coach is Claire Jenkins, the former Derbyshire and Somerset cricketer, who's just settling back in beside me, and we've got the final couple of overs here. And I was saying, when you left us, it wasn't necessarily going one way or the other, as Boycott bowls outside the off stump. That's a wide, in fact 147 for 7, but it seems as if the Sparks have just wrestled control of this one now.
What you're saying is it's got exciting after I left. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Well, certainly on the pitch, Claire, I'd say that, as Boycott comes in, and there was a tumble of wickets of which Boycott was involved, as this one slides out the square and Eve Jones picks up single taken. But yeah, it does just feel it's gone over into the Sparks' favour here, although 150, who knows, it could be a challenging total second half of this game.
And Boycott making an impact both ends, you know, she's doing well, and she's good fielding as well.
Industrious cricketer, we're almost running out of adjectives to describe her in that sense, but she certainly is. Just making sure she's got a field right here. Happy to bowl the death overs as well, as they're often termed, as Boycott runs across and does the fielding off her own bowling relatively comfortably. Other thing you'll see if you go to the Sparks will fly hashtag, you'll get all the best of the pictures as well, including Boycott celebrating a wicket with the obligatory tap of the ankles. Doesn't get one there, a missed cut stroke goes into Davis's gloves, no run. Again, Davis gets to have a chat with the umpire who comes to replace the bails.
Yeah, get involved with the debate, get into Twitter, look at the hashtags, RHF Trophy.
Here comes Boycott once more, and this one is played off the outside half of the bat. They're going to go through for the single. It was good running, very, very good running in the end from Duckworth to get through for the 149 for 7. My car's looking safe at the moment, although with just 2 overs to go after this one, I may be making the comment a little bit early,
said
but
that
we'll
now,
see.
you Mike. How's your insurance looking?
Well, it's due for renewal this month actually, so let's keep our fingers crossed, everybody, as Boycott is making her way in. Bowls, and this one is turned away. Right, Duckworth, there's a shy at the stumps. It would have been long out, because almost following the lead was Dyson of the quick single from the previous ball. She willingly headed down the wicket and was absolutely nowhere when Arlott tried to throw down the stumps, and it missed by an absolute kitten's whisker.
Well, although we can't see the angle, but it clearly only missed just by that much.
Boycott bowling. This one is played through the leg side, and there's going to be 4 runs here. You would think the chase is on, but it seems as if it'll be a disappointed one. Oh, there's a fantastic effort, and the ball has just been flicked back inside the rope. Chloe Hill, I think it was there, there was 3 of them descending on a ball that looked for all the world as if it was going to roll over the rope, but Chloe Hill just somehow got fingertips on it, kept it inside, and the 150 does come up, but it's 1 run short of where it would be. 152 for 7, the Thunder score.
They went herring off towards that long boundary, didn't they? And it looked like they'd lost the battle, but yeah, one of them just managed to stop that and get the ball back.
Yeah, it must have been literally millimetres by the time Hill got to the ball, but she just got something on it. And the Thunder have a total which is at very least competitive here, but we'll only know when the Sparks start their innings, I suppose.
Yeah, we won't know till the Sparks have a go on this, don't we? But it seems like a better total, and it certainly seemed when I left and Raf took over, so...
Izzy Wong has been on Sparks Will Fly. Just simply a message saying yes with the handle of Anisha Patel there. Clearly encouraging Patel's wicket. Made the score 53 for 1. It's easy to forget there was a 50 partnership from the openers Marshall and Boyce at the start of this innings, but it was a slow one that took 16 overs, more than 16 overs in fact. Second ball of the 17th was when the wicket fell. No run from that delivery, and they're ticking away. Just 11 of them left for the Thunder. This one driven uppishly into the offside, but that's the sort of intent that needs to be shown. Duckworth moves on to 15 from 40 with that drive through a wide mid-off, although the mid-off Poppy Davis did well to get across. 153 for 7.
If you get a chance, then use the hashtags RHF Trophy. If you're into the Central Sparks, then Sparks will fly, and Thunder is coming for the Thunder.
And Heyhoe, let's go always makes people giggle as well. In comes Arlett and is bowling right arm over the wicket. This one again is played down the ground, this time on the onside. Thea Brooks was out at long on, and it was a well positioned move from the captain as we hear the calling of the cathedral bell at 1:30.
Yeah, I like Heyhoe, let's go as well, but I'm not entirely certain that it's been used in the past in necessarily more savoury reasons, so I kind of didn't mention that.
Ah, I see. Right, as in comes Arlett and bowls, and this one is up in the air and goes behind square. Single taken. There was a thought of Duckworth coming back for the second, couldn't do so, and the bell tolls out with Duckworth on 16 now, 155 for 7. So clearly somebody has managed to get into the bell tower. And
yes, socially distant.
Yes. Bell ringing. I suppose you're always socially distant because you're going up and down on the ropes, aren't you?
Especially if you don't let go.
In comes Arlett again and delivers this one down the leg side. There's a bit of pad involved. And signalled as such
definitely
by the
leg by.
Yes, it was the most leg by you could ever wish to see, that one. 156 for 7. It's sort of the way when batters start clearing their legs towards the end of the innings to try and get through and hit over the onside, that obviously if it is going down there you quite often get struck on it. And well, we're giving it a good old go, that bell there. 1:30
Ding
on this
dong.
Saturday. I'm glad to have you all with us, as I say. Give that little thumbs up a tap if you get chance, and that'll be much appreciated by us, because it's really good to know people are enjoying the stream. As Arlett comes in and bowls, and this one's hit down the ground. There's going to be a single taken to Poppy Davis. Arlett thought she was in with a chance of a catch, but it would have been an absolute worldie.
One of those ones where you ask, can I have my finger back, and you get the ball.
Yep, if she'd plucked that out. 157 for 7. 6 balls of the innings remaining. So Thunder will be... They need a boundary, really, and to try and maybe take a sort of an 8-10 off this over if they can.
I mean, you'd like to think that the runs will be key. I mean, we don't know how close it's going to be second time round, do we, when Sparks get to bat.
Whatever the case, it'll be a bigger chase than it was on Bank Holiday Monday, so...
Yeah, bigger score, actually. It didn't feel like that. It felt... but
it felt tight all the way, it has to be said, on Bank Holiday Monday, although a couple of the spinners missing now for the Thunders, as Duckworth will break through and she'll look for 2. Dyson's never going to get back for that, so it means Duckworth has to return. 158 for 7 the score moves to. Bat on Bull Road for the Thunder, which is the first priority here.
Yeah, and some intent, but a little late from Thunder in terms of taking those quick singles. I could have done with this a bit earlier.
Yeah, it's interesting to find out how many they feel they may be left out there today in terms of singles, as Boycott bowls. This one's hit into the offside, and that's a great catch by Eve Jones. She's done 2 magnificent pieces of fielding in this Thunder innings, and that was the second of them, to dismiss Dyson for 21. Caught off her 24th delivery. She came and added much needed impetus to the Thunder innings, but she's caught at short extra cover by the always impressive Eve Jones, and when you put that with a run out, she's had a very good time out there as the Sparks skipper.
Yep, set an example, captain in the field. We've got Alex Hartley, always entertaining, as Raf pointed out on the commentary on TMS and also on the pitch.
And Arlett.
If you haven't caught up with their No Balls podcast that Kate Cross and Alex Hartley do, please join that and subscribe to that, because it is a lot of fun.
Yes, no, I think I described it as a laugh a minute, and it certainly can't be far from that.
It's mostly their laughs as well, but it is very entertaining. And they take the mick out of each other remorselessly, particularly now that, of course, Alex Hartley has won a game as captain, and which is something that Kate Cross is rather through gritted teeth congratulating
herself. Rather self-deprecating fashion pointed out she was let down by a left arm spinner, I think was what
she said the consolation was that she was better than last captain.
In comes Boycott, and this one is back in towards Hartley's pads. I think I could see most of the stumps from our angle down at third, and a single is taken off those pads. I think it fell into the category of evasive action as much as anything there from Hartley. 159 for 8. It was
enthusiastic hours out there.
Yeah, there was a big appeal there from Boycott. 3 balls left to go in the Thunder innings then, as Boycott bowls from the Diglis end, and this one is played into the offside. The very brave and very capable Eve Jones makes the stop at cover.
The ball magnet at cover there, Eve Jones.
As I say, I was very surprised to see her backward square leg at one point, because she seems to captain almost entirely from that short extra cover position. As this one goes down the leg side, Gwennon Davis has knocked the stumps over but doesn't have the ball, which allows a single to be taken. Let's wait for the umpire signal. It's a wide ball, so 2 to the total. A little bit costly in the final over because it allows another ball as well. 161 for 8 the score moves on to.
She's certainly been kept busy in the field, hasn't she, Eve Jones, and setting a great example. Stops, wearing the ball as you mentioned earlier, defending that boundary.
And getting her bowlers absolutely spot on. She's only used 5, which is always impressive in a one-day game. You regularly see captains just coming up short and looking around to see who can bowl them 1 or 2, as in comes Boycott, and this one is chopped into the ground, and then there's going to be an attempt at a run out of the non-strikers, and that will lead to overthrows, and it could lead to 4 overthrows, and this has all got very exciting all of a sudden. 5 runs will be scored there, because 1 had been completed by the time it crossed the boundary, although they were desperately trying to get back for the second. We'll try and just confirm that on the scoreboard in a moment, but I make it 5, which is 166 for 8, but the discussion is taking place with...
I'm not entirely how I would describe Alex Hartley's shot then, but...
Here comes Boycott again, short of a length. This one is cut away on the offside, slightly in the air. We say it's entertaining when Hartley is at the crease, and she's managed to produce overthrows.
She wanted another run there, she was off.
It's 4 went on to the total there, so they clearly decided the batters hadn't even made... No, 4 went on to the total. They clearly hadn't decided they'd made their creases on the one occasion. 166 for 8 is the Thunder total at the end of the innings. Hartley walking off after that entertaining contribution at the end there, but the Sparks for me seem to have control of that for much of the overs. There were points where it was in the balance, but the seesaw never seemed to tip in the Thunder's favour. How did you view it, Claire?
It was strange because Thunder just didn't seem like they were getting anywhere with making the scoreboard go up. And then Sparks got wickets, but at the same time Thunder were